Hey, well, what's up, and welcome to the live stream today. I cannot wait to have the conversation with you guys. And if you're watching, go ahead and put in the comment section, where are you watching from? If you can help me out, let me know where it is you're watching from. I'm totally interested to know. I know we've been having people from all over the world watching, and we don't have as many people on the stream tonight. I don't know why, maybe because it's a Friday night. But one of the things that you can do to help us is if you hit the like button on this video, that shoots us out into the YouTube algorithm. And we want the more people, the merrier, because it's going to help us ultimately do what we've been trying to do here on this channel since the very beginning, which is bring justice for Gabby. And man, there's a lot to talk about today. Earlier this morning, I didn't realize it was breaking news, but earlier this morning, I got an email. I guess I'm on the list of people that Dog's team is emailing, and they sent me an email. And one of the things that they were saying, and I'll go ahead and put it on the screen for you guys because I tweeted it out. I didn't realize that it was breaking news at the time, but apparently it was breaking news, and they were letting people know. There was something in there that I found that was really interesting, though, in the email they sent out. So my Twitter's on the screen. Here's the email that I got. This was a screenshot of the email from Dog the Bounty Hunter's team. They sent me today, and they said, "Greetings. Hey, here's a midday update from Dog's team. The Chapman family has added a $10,000 reward to information leading to Brian's arrest." Okay, that's good information. Dog the Bounty Hunter is sponsoring this whole effort. An additional $10K. Great news. And then it says this as, and I found this to be the most interesting part, as an example of Dog's cooperation with law enforcement, a plain-clothed police officer is embedded with the search team today. No other details are available. So is this an FBI agent? Is this a local Fort DeSoto? Dog initially it said he's setting up his home base in Marco Island. Is this a police officer from Marco Island? Like, I'm interested. What kind of police officer is this? What kind of law enforcement is this? To me, that one really stuck out. And it just goes to show you, that the law enforcement are listening to what Dog the Bounty Hunter is saying. In fact, they're joining him with it. And then the third thing they sent out, and I tweeted this like 6-7 hours before other people started talking about it all over the internet. It just went crazy. But Dog received a tip that placed Brian's sister, Cassie, in Fort DeSoto on September 6th, which seemingly contradicts her previous statement. That information was immediately given to law enforcement this morning and has been corroborated. No further details are available. And so that's the information that we were able to get from Dog the Bounty Hunter's team. They sent me that about noon today. And it's interesting to me as we looked at that, as we sort of digested what was happening on there, that, Cassie was not telling the truth. And to me, that's not a shocker. Is anybody surprised by that? Is anybody surprised that his own sister was not telling the truth about it? I was not surprised in the least bit. And then we had this update from Fox, and Dog the Bounty Hunter actually let Fox follow him around. And I found it interesting. Like, he's allowing some film crews sort of get on it. Some people say he's trying to pitch his own show. I don't know if that's true, but they give a great update about that second body cam footage, which we digested together in public. So I'm going to play it for you. I want you to listen. Go ahead, send me those chats. Send me your questions. I'll be sending out a link so you guys can join the call today too. I want you on the call with me, and we can have some interaction. Okay. And yeah, go ahead, hit the like button, get us out in the YouTube algorithm today. I know it's a Friday night, but get us out in the YouTube algorithm tonight.
Dispute. We've shown that 911 call to you all before on this program in the past, where a bystander alleges that Brian Laundrie struck Gabby Petito. In this video, Petito does acknowledge that she was struck by Brian Laundrie, but she also claims that she started the fight. Listen to this.
There's two people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I didn't really hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him.
You slapped him first? And then saw his face?
You get to shut up.
It's heartbreaking to watch that.
And the officer at the time does point out bruises and markings on Petito's body, but no arrests were made. Meanwhile, the search in Northport is intensifying after the FBI went to the Laundrie home yesterday and removed pieces of evidence that they believe will assist the canine units in tracking down the 23-year-old who's still listed as the only person of interest in Petito's homicide. And finally, celebrity Dwayne Chapman, also known as Dog the Bounty Hunter, confirmed to us today that he was back out searching for Brian Laundrie. He claims that he's received thousands of tips at this point. Some of those he's shared with law enforcement. Dog the Bounty Hunter's search has for the most part revolved around Fort DeSoto Park, that's just about 10 minutes away from us here in St. Petersburg. But he tells us that he has now announced a new $10,000 reward to anyone who provides information that leads to an arrest of Brian Laundrie. Andrew?
Now, Robert, you've had quite a particular and unique experience the last 2 days, I believe, really embedding yourself with Dog the Bounty Hunter, Dwayne Chapman's search teams in Edmont Park and other areas, I believe, of Fort DeSoto Park as well. What has that been like? Can you offer us some context? What was that experience like?
Yeah, Fox was the only media that was able to accompany Dog the Bounty Hunter back on Wednesday. What we saw on the ground, we saw him bring this canine unit along with him as they were searching a number of these isolated islands, that don't have any inhabitants on them. He's under the belief that there's a possibility that Laundrie ended up on one of those islands, maybe stayed there, maybe is still currently there. At least that was the thought process on Wednesday. So we saw those crews combing through some of those islands. Dog the Bounty Hunter, it's important to note, yes, has his own TV show. Yes, is a celebrity, very meticulous out in the field. And we saw the way that they would go.
Did anybody watch the Dog the Bounty Hunter show? Whenever I'm watching the show, it's like he actually has a very particular set of skills, and he's honed it in and gotten better and better at it. But he finds some of the hardest people to find. And so I have a great affection or affirmation towards Dog the Bounty Hunter. I think he's going to be successful, actually. And so whenever this newscaster is making the statement that he's very meticulous, he knows what he's doing, he's looking at it, man, I'm not going to be surprised if Dog the Bounty Hunter is the one who's able to bring him in. And whenever some people initially saw him joining the hunt, they're saying, well, he was doing this was a publicity stunt or whatever. I don't think it was. I think he had a pure heart behind it. Now he's even offering $10,000. He's offering $10,000 of his own money to be able to help find him. And so I think as we're looking at it, we need to be looking at Dog the Bounty Hunter a lot more seriously than people initially were taking him to begin with.
Go through everything, whether it was a drink can that was sitting out, whether it was an old fireplace, they would analyze everything that they could see. You have to keep in mind as well, we were the only crew that was out there, and they actually didn't want any media crews to be accompanying them. We ended up finding out exactly where they were. This is not being done in the limelight. This is not being done in front of all these cameras. This is Dog the Bounty Hunter and about 10 to 12 handpicked individuals doing this behind closed doors and keeping law enforcement in the loop. So from everything that we can gather, it's, again, a very meticulous process and also a very sincere effort to find Brian Laundrie.
Yeah, Robert, that was one.
So it was a great rundown from from that news station today that sort of went over what was happening. And from Dog the Bounty Hunter's standpoint, there was an awesome clip that I saw. I don't know if you guys saw this clip of this lady, but I wanted to play it for you. At the end of the clip, I'm not somebody who does, I'm not a very emotional person. I don't express my emotions very much, but even laughing. But whenever I got to the end of this clip the first time, I literally started laughing out loud. This woman, she was definitely cracking me up. Okay, we have a timeline. I'm going to go over a timeline here in a bit with you, but I want you to hear this lady today. She was cracking me up earlier.
To be here, and they're just sitting there, peeking out their windows. Well, I'm dirty. Very soothing. Very soothing. Dirty laundry. This house should be burned. That'll get you out. I swear to God, these people, I want to see them fined for this search. They know what happened. Or he lied. Because I'm going to tell you something. What got my heart was when I saw the manipulation that their son did with those cops in Utah. He had those cops eating out of the palm of their hand. That's a talent. You got to be psychotic in order to do that. You got to be psychotic.
I mean, she ain't
And they
lying.
let that girl was troubled. I think she saw something, she knew something, and then to separate them, how are you going to separate them? Make her stay in the camper and him in a hotel? No, I'm sorry. This is not right.
Where are you from?
Hershey, Pennsylvania.
What's your name?
Marissa Zadinsky.
Spell that last name for me.
Marissa. Z as in Zulu, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha, Z as in Zulu, Indigo, and SKY, Zadinsky.
So you came here just...
Yes. I want to see them. I want to see the FBI drag these people out and give some answers. This does not make sense. Listen, I got free speech too. You can lawyer up, but I got free speech too. And I'm not trying to be a drama queen, but the more that I see, everyone is reacting to this. The whole world. For a guy on the loose, and let me tell you something else. And you can quote me on this.
It's my favorite part.
The bounty hunter. Fine, Brian Laundrie. I'm never paying taxes again.
I love that word. She's like, if Dog the Bounty Hunter finds Brian Laundrie, I'm never paying taxes again. I mean, he's like, she has a point. Not about. I mean, she's basically saying, hey, we've been paying to the local officers, we've been paying to the FBI, and you'll see it when we go over the timeline that that whenever she was standing there and doing this, is like the FBI and Northport Police, they were spending a lot of the time searching the Carlton Reserve. Doug the Bounty gets in the hunt. 1 or 2 days later of him being in the hunt, has leads in north of where they're at from Northport, Florida, and Fort DeSoto, and then FBI takes over the investigation from Northport. It's almost like, is there a connection? Like, hey, Dog the Bounty Hunter has only been on this for just a little bit, and then all of a sudden, FBI has to take over, and you guys totally redirect your resources. And now there's a hidden police officer hanging out with Dog's team, and so she's got a point. She's like, if Dog the Bounty Hunter finds him. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them into the comment section. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the chat if any of you guys want to join me on the stream today with a question. If you join the call, listen, it's so important. It's so important to me. Do not use curse words. This is a clean channel, okay? I don't want you, if you join the call, I want you to join the call. Make sure you're not on YouTube when you join the call, or have YouTube muted when you join the call. Hey, we just got our first member ever. I've never had a member on my channel. It just became available to me. So thank you, Tammy. You are my very first ever YouTube member. Thank you so much. It means a whole lot. I've never had a member before. So we're celebrating you today, Tammy. Thank you so much for joining my membership. I just had super chats. For me, yesterday was the very first time I had super chats. And honestly, whenever I was doing a stream the other day, I had over 20,000 people at one time on the stream, and we did a stream for several hours. The average viewership was like 17,000 people or something like that. It's so crazy to me. And people were like sending me so much hate mail saying I was trying to profit off this. I'm not profiting off of it at all. The first several days, with all of the money that people were sending in on PayPal or whatever, was very small. And I gave part of it to Evan, who was co-hosting. And then I sent the rest of it to the Gabby Petito Family Foundation. And so I don't know why people are getting so upset with me about that. But I appreciate your support. I think content creators should be supported, whether you know it or not. You're supporting news stations and other things that happen. And so anyways, my first member ever, Tammy, thank you. All the people who gave on the super chats yesterday, thank you so much. It really means a lot. This lady, she spelled her name out on that. And then we saw Brian Enton, being back at the house. And then he gives an update on Cassie. Here's what he says.
Cassie. She said last month that she had not seen Brian Laundrie since he returned to Florida. But now we've confirmed today through the Laundrie family attorney that she has in fact seen Brian Laundrie not once, but 2 times. We're going to walk you through the whole thing, but first of all, I want you to listen to what she said to ABC News last month.
Laundrie's sister Cassie says even she hasn't spoken to her brother since he returned to his home in Florida from his and Gabby's cross-country trip without Gabby.
I haven't been able to talk to him. I wish I could talk to him. And I've cooperated every way that I can. I wish I had information where I would give more. This is all I have is I gave to the police.
So why is the story apparently changing? Well, we went to Cassie's house today. She lives about 45 minutes from where we are at the parents' house. Knocked on the door. No one was home. There were dogs home barking, but no one came to the door, and we weren't able to get any answers. But according to the Laundrie attorney, Cassie saw her brother the first time on September 1st. That is when the attorney says that Cassie had her brother over to her house where they saw each other. And then a second time on September 6th. And listen to this. The attorney confirmed that Cassie actually went to the campsite, the campground where we confirmed Brian and his parents were camping. All of this after Brian came back to Florida in Gabby's van without Gabby. So some very interesting new details today. Meanwhile, the manhunt continues. Still no confirmed sightings of Brian Laundrie. Nicole?
All right, well, Brian, you have something new for us.
Very interesting. I'm going to go ahead and put my timeline up and start working through some of that with you guys. I know that's a big reason why some of you guys are here. You like going through the timeline and looking at. One of the things I added to the timeline that I wanted to be able to see, I wanted to go through and say, like, where are all the places that people have said that they've seen Brian at? And even before I got on this call, I got an email from somebody, one of you guys who were watching, and they said like, hey, look at this. This looks like Brian at my local whatever gas station or whatever making a purchase. And so here's alleged sightings of Brian. Okay, there's 11 of them that have sort of made their way to the media. Okay, this is what they said. Number one, Fort DeSoto Campground. That one's been confirmed. We know he's at Fort DeSoto Campground, so that one's been confirmed. Another one, Appalachian Trail in North Carolina. Another one, Carlton Reserve. Another one, Bullwinkle's Saloon in West Yellowstone. I didn't know about that one. Somebody emailed me about it just a few minutes ago. Number 5, Mexico in a restaurant. All right. And you can see on the map. Number 6, Toronto in a hotel. So we've seen him in Mexico, then to Canada. Number 7, a TikToker drops Brian off in Wyoming. Number 8, Northport. People were seeing him 2 blocks from the house. Number 9, the county trail cams. Remember in Baker, Florida, they were saying, here he is. Number 10 in Alabama. Number 11 in the Bahamas. Like, there's been a lot of different places where they thought they saw him. Hey, Tranquil Pilots calling in. Hey, Tranquil, thank you for calling in today. What are your questions or thoughts?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Going well, man. Good to see you again. It's your 3rd time calling in.
Yeah, good to see you too. Thanks for covering this whole thing, and thanks for letting me in every time.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just watched the other channel. Are you aware of the Ikidmel channel?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I watched him talk to the father of one of the slain girls in Moab.
Yeah.
Man,
Kylan's dad.
I don't know how to describe it. My blood was boiling,
Right.
and I was getting chills at the same time
I know.
of the difficulties he's facing trying to catch the killer. Anyways, so the question I still have is, does Gavin? I'm still stuck on Gavin and his coverage. Any reports on the type of gun that was used in that murder?
So according to the father, he said they've ran a ballistics report, but he hasn't been given access to that. And so one of the things that Ikemel was saying, like, well, hey, have you heard that there were multiple casings on the ground? I said, I haven't heard anything about that. And so you would think that when they're doing an autopsy and they're able to pull the bullets out, so they know what kind of gun it was. None of that information has been released publicly, and none of the details from the autopsy of Gabby has been yet released publicly. And so there's a big question in there that people have, like, are these things connected? And for some reason, there's one little line that the local police made, and they said these things are not connected. So either just out of an abundance of caution in the beginning, they didn't want to connect everything, or they have some intel that hasn't been released to the public that makes them think that way. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. Like, I'm not exactly sure what the details are on that, but for now, the official statement is they're not connected.
Okay, I mean, just in general, because you have been covering many more cases before this also, is something like that, like important information about a gun like made public at all to try to help in the
Yeah.
investigation?
Usually they'll release it at some point. However, if they release information too soon that they think may compromise the investigation, they'll wait to release it. And so my thought as I'm looking at it is they think that if they release it and in some way it will compromise their investigation. It's not uncommon the day of a homicide that they would release the information. That's not uncommon at all. However, at their discretion, they can begin to release it. So,
Okay. I had one more thing now related to Brian Laundrie.
sure.
I also watched the second body cam video that was released.
Yeah, we went over it
And
last night.
in the very beginning, Brian says he does not have a phone on him.
Yeah.
But if you remember watching the other body cam footage,
Yeah.
he exchanges phone
Phones.
numbers with that other cop
Yeah.
in a
So,
very friendly conversation that they had, which was again, I don't know, I have never seen a so friendly cop ever in my life.
I usually deal with friendly cops, but there's some speculation about the tense in which he was saying that word, like, hey, I don't have my phone on me. It's in the car or whatever. And then the other police officer went and got. There's some questions around that. And even somebody emailed me today and said, no, he didn't mean that he didn't have a phone. He meant he didn't have it right then at that moment. So that one's still out. It's probably split down the middle of people thinking he didn't have a phone and then people thinking that he did have a phone. It's interesting that he says he didn't have a phone, then buys one when he gets home and then leaves it. So there's some questions there for me on that.
So am I crazy or am I not remembering it? He sitting in the back seat of that other cop.
Yeah.
Doesn't he exchange the phone
Yeah.
number?
He gives him his number, and then it's blurred out. The cop's like writing it down, and it's blurred out on the body cam footage. But again, they're saying like the other police officer went and got his phone or whatever, and then later Gabby says, "Don't forget to give him his phone charger."
Exactly. So what
Yeah.
phone is it, and where is that phone, and what is the data out of it? I think again the cops are keeping it
right, and the police the original search warrant was to take that. So there's a lot to that. Thank you for calling in today.
Sure, man.
Appreciate it. Tina says, let's take a minute and pray. And so, Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you. We just pray that you surround the Laundrie family with your compassion, that you'd surround the Petito family and the Schmidt family with your love, care, and compassion. May they know the true love of the Father and give us supernatural peace, Jesus, that your word declares. Amen.
Alexis.
Amy, thank you for calling in today. Hey, what are your thoughts or questions?
Hi again. That woman that was there, who came from Pennsylvania, she just said everything that I wanted to say to the people.
You said it.
Maybe
Dog the
burning
bounty
house
hunter
down.
finds.
Minus, and then the people online that are saying that she's too much. They're not really used to New York because she obviously wasn't raised in Pennsylvania. She either sounds like she's from New York or the New Jersey area, and you're not used to the attitude. And she's like Joan Rivers. That was like the person that she reminded me was the late great Joan
I
Rivers.
thought like maybe if she was from Philly and then she was like, I'm from Hershey, Pennsylvania. I'm like, people from Hershey.
That's not an accent. That's not the accent. I know I've lived in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. That's the wrong accent. It's a New York accent basically. But she said everything that I would have loved to say. And the thing that I wanted to say, I don't know if anybody knows, if they wanted to do research. It's so ironic. If you look at the Moab City mayor, it's a woman, and if you read her bio, she has a sociology degree, and she worked as a social worker in the city of Moab. And I find it unbelievable because I thought like mayors had some sort of authority over their police departments and running things and overseeing. So I just find it ironic. I didn't know if anybody did that research or looked into that, but I just found it quite interesting. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention.
Well,
But
I mean, the usually in city structures can structure however they want, and so I don't know how it works, but a lot of times the mayor has jurisdiction over the city police, but they don't have jurisdiction over the county, and the sheriff is voted in, and that would be the Grand County. And so some of those people were from
Wow.
Moab Police, and there was some Grand County there. But thank you, Amy, for calling in today.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
bye. Bye.
Tiffany, how are you? Thank you for calling in.
Hey, Tyler. Thank you so much for what y'all are doing. I have been watching y'all every night religiously.
Thank you.
So,
Well, good. Thank you for being a part of our channel. And if people would hit the like button right now, it would really help us, because I know it's a Friday night, so there's not as many people on, but if we can hit the YouTube algorithm, if you like and subscribe, if you haven't subscribed, it sends us out there. But thank you for watching.
no problem. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. I watched WFLA Channel 8 today, and it was very interesting. There was a couple of things. People are upset about not knowing the cause of death.
Right.
And I found out on listening to this, they had like kind of like a big table of people. I don't know if you so happened to watch that or not.
I was busy all day, but
yeah, it was really good. Since we're talking about facts here, saying that basically you've got a lot of things. For one, you've got such a big thing of social media.
Yeah.
You've got, if they bring this person, if they do catch him and bring him in, people are already going to have an idea, and it's going to have you have to have a juror, that's not going to be biased, that's going to be fair.
Right.
And if they release this information, and if they decide to say, well, this has been a big social media case, we're just going to go in front of the judge. They need to have that information to say, hey, look, we've got this guy.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's one thing. The other thing is they don't need to release that information in case, they need to have that to prove him guilty.
Yeah.
And then the third thing
that's a big part of it.
Right. And the third thing is a lot of cases, this guy was talking, a lot of cases fall through the cracks and the people get off because they assume somebody's guilty without going through the evidence first, so they have a solid case.
Yep.
Which is very good. Now, and I know I'm talking a lot, but the other thing that I found very interesting that one of them said was, did they think he was in a different country? A lot of people are mad. They're wanting to know why there is not a warrant out for him to attach him to this murder. I found, or homicide, sorry, it's not a murder yet. It's a homicide investigation.
Right.
Okay. I found this very interesting. They said some countries do not expedite people back. Some countries do expedite people back, but in order for that country to cooperate with the United States, they take the death penalty off the table.
Yep.
So what if they're not putting that in, trying to get another country to cooperate to get him back on that debit card fraud?
Right.
So they can, do the murder charges and not have to worry about the death penalty being pulled off.
I mean, that's a pretty good theory. They know there's probably a little bit of that politics going on, and the extradition doesn't exist in Cuba. So I think if Brian was thinking about it, his closeness and proximity to Cuba would have been, in my opinion, a reason why he would have went there. But this potential sightings that we noted on that map, I'll scroll up on it real fast. The potential sightings that we noticed on this map, number 11, Bahamas, number 5, Mexico, number 6, Canada. I mean, and somebody even there's another site, it wasn't proven. There's another site of him in Portugal, or somebody that looked like him. It wasn't actually him. And so I think it's potential he went there. However, when we look at what Dog the Bounty Hunter is doing, and by the way, I promise you guys, I'll stay up to date on what Dog the Bounty Hunter says. They've got me on their list of people. As soon as they have an update, they hit me with it. And so I'll send you out his updates. But, I think he would be looking in some of these other places. He's gone to Mexico and got somebody before and got put in prison over it because you're not allowed to bounty hunt in Mexico. So great theories, Tiffany. Thank you for calling in today.
All right. Well, thank you for what you do.
Yep. All right, Jenny, I'm going to add you to the call in just a second, and I see you, William, waiting to get on. If you're wanting to be on the call today, the link, I pinned the link, so all you got to do is click on that. Thank you for hitting like. We've had a couple people join our membership program. YouTube just granted me permission last night as soon as our call ended. I don't know why. As soon as our call ended, I got an email last night that says my memberships were approved by YouTube. And so that's a big deal to me. We had 3 people join. It's my first time being able to do it. Thank you guys for joining the membership program. That really means a lot. When we look at this timeline, in June is whenever Gabby and Brian set off on their trip. On July 4th was sort of one of the first times we see them posting photos. They were in Kansas. July 8th, they were in the Great Sand Dunes. If you looked at their TikTok, it looked cool. They were like snowboarding down sand dunes. It looked really fun to me. I didn't even know you could do that. It looks like they were having a blast. You get, like, I've done snowboarding. I fall a lot. I think it would hurt. That's what I was thinking. Or you get sand everywhere. But they were like snowboarding down these sand dunes. It looked like they were just having a whole lot of fun. Hey, is it Kareen or Karina? Well, thank you so much for joining and becoming a member. It means a whole lot. July 18th, Gabby and Brian post themselves at Utah's Zion National Park. And then we know the big incident that started to happen on the 12th. And so we'll work our way down this. And this is a simple timeline. And then I have a more in-depth one. If you guys want to hear it tonight, I have the more in-depth one that sort of connects the three murders, the one of Kylan and Crystal with the one potentially of Gabby, and maybe they're connected, maybe they're not, but I have some of the details, and in my opinion, I think the three might be connected. It's a poll question, if you don't mind answering it. Hey, Jenny, thank you for calling today. What are your thoughts? Can you hear us? Are you there, Jenny? All right. I don't think she's listening. We'll come back to her in just a minute. Troy, thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts today?
Yeah, I had the same feeling about the Robert Lowry, that all the murders are connected with the two girls. Oh, let me mute that.
The dad of Kylan and
I just think that all three of the murders are definitely connected, especially since they found that the body of Robert Lowry not too far from where they found Gabby's body.
Yeah, so they found the body of Robert Lowry in the same Wyoming forest where Gabby Petito was found.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me? Maybe he can't hear us, but a lot of people has been messaging about Robert Lowry, and it's an interesting connection to make. I'm in the position where it's very ironic, and it's certainly drawn enormous public attention that Robert Lowry was last seen in that spot. And so interesting. I don't know for sure. What's the chances? Probably really small. Somebody said he died from a grizzly bear attack. I don't know. If you have a video or a news story on it, send it to me. I want to watch it. Anna, thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts today?
My thoughts are that since Brian and Gabby had a dark side from all their posts, I guess it was on Twitter. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. I really honestly believe, since the couple was so close, that Gabby knew about the other three murders.
Right.
And maybe she was ready to talk, and that's why he killed her. I mean, that's my opinion, because when she was in the video, when they were pulled over by the cop, she said, when they were going to separate them, she said, "Oh, I don't want to be alone." But yet during their trip, he flew back to Florida and she was alone.
I thought about that too.
Oh, you did? Okay. And also, do you know if there's any other murders along the other states that they traveled, or anybody missing people?
I mean, I'm sure there's murders, and I'm sure there's missing people. There's been nothing that's just stuck out that would connect them. There's been quite a bit of murders, and it's National Park Service and national parks, and these are protected wildlife areas that span, hundreds of thousands of acres. And so it is kind of a hotbed area for that type of activity. The theory a little bit behind the darkness of what Brian and actually Gabby was into was that underneath of all of it was sort of this intentional approach by Brian to purposefully go after three people. And it was, he had this affinity with Holy Trinity, not the Father, Son, Holy Spirit I love the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. That's the Trinity I believe in. His was dark and twisted, and his artwork reflected that. And there was a whole lot to that. And so that theory that you're saying, Anna, is it's maybe something that's worth going down, but it would sort of butt against some of the other theories that are emerging.
Right. I just thought that, hey, why did he kill her? That maybe she was scared and ready to talk, but I don't know if she was involved in it. but I kind of knew that she knew about it.
Yeah.
Because she looked pretty scared when they pulled her over, and so did he, But that's
He
just a
looked
thought.
terrified. He
I
looked
don't know if
terrified.
that's just my theory. That's just a thought.
I mean, hey, keep it open. And right now, like any little bit of information helps. And so if anybody researches that and finds like, wow, these are strangely similar, then, we need to know about it. But at this point, I think somebody would have, been able to draw those connections. And I looked at like 8 or so different murders and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think they were connected.
Yeah, these ones are, and the creepy guy is the other murder, I think.
Right.
The guy yeah, I think that's the creepy guy that was murdered by Brian.
You're talking about Robert Lowry. Yeah. I
Robert
don't know.
Lowry. There you go.
Well, it's all emerging. It's all budding news. So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
hey, Dog the Bounty Hunter's on the scene. Maybe he'll find all of that out. And I'm looking into the Robert Lowry thing more. I'm not convinced enough to say anything about it personally right now, because the guy was trying to get out of prison. I don't know. I read one report that says he was attacked by a bear. Who knows for sure?
Oh, wow.
What happened? So, anyways, Anna, thank you for calling in today.
Thank you for having me. God bless.
Jordan, what's up, man? Thanks for joining the stream. How are you?
Hey, Tyler, how are you, bro?
Good. What are you thinking about this?
So, I guess my question is, when the two ladies were killed, the autopsy report came out like immediately.
Yeah.
Right, and then like Gabby's, it's not there. Like we don't have anything.
Yeah, and part of the reason behind that was there's some things at play. One, the autopsy of Kylan and Crystal is definitely gunshot wounds. Okay, so that's evident. Number two, Gabby's body had been out there for a number of days, possibly 18 or 19 days.
Right.
Kylan and Crystal was out there for 5 days before they were found. Gabby had been out there for a long time. So just if there's normal body decay, okay, that's going to happen. And then on top of the normal body decay, it's elements, it's animals, there was rain, there was hail, and so her body would have been hard. And then on top of that, then there's another thing of the fact that her person of interest has gone missing, and they're being very careful about how they're wording what they're doing with him so it doesn't compromise their investigation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just find it weird that, like the next day or 2 days later, the two ladies their autopsy reports,
right,
out in public. I just found that weird, but that's a good point. It makes a lot of sense.
I think that to me, that's like, that's sort of the thought behind all of it. I appreciate you calling in, Jordan. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
William, hey, thank you for joining. Love having you on the call. You were on here last night. And by the way, if you're watching, if you guys don't mind hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, it just helps get us into the YouTube algorithm tonight. Some of you are sending super chats. Some of you are sending memberships. That is so helpful, and I'm so grateful for it. William, what do you think, man?
My question is I want to know your thoughts on. I was considering this, and what I was considering is how did Crystal not recognize Brian from spending 6 hours in the Moonflower when she said the creepy guy? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think whenever she was talking about the creepy guy, it's like the report or whatever that I read said that whenever her friends were trying to describe what she was describing was like a guy who was wearing a baggy hoodie with a hood over top of his head, and he was being suspicious and hanging out in different places. And so I think that it wasn't clear that it was Brian. I mean, he was incognito a little bit. If
Right.
Brian was the creepy guy. And by the way, it's possible to be a creepy guy who's living out in the woods, and he just looks creepy because he's living on the land out in the woods, and it's completely detached from this situation.
Well, there was a girl or somebody that was camped next to him. There was a truck and then the van, but she said that she called him a girl that got out of the van, and it was in a hoodie, and it was kind of like, so maybe that's what he did.
Yeah, it's very possible. Another thing that was happening within an eighth of a mile of where Kylan and Krista was at was there was a wedding of 100 people at Whispering Oaks was the name of the place.
Right.
And on the same night that Kylan and Crystal were murdered, there was a wedding party going on. And I don't understand how come the police didn't go to the wedding, party and say, hey, give us a list of everyone who was there. It doesn't take that long to call 100 people and say, hey, do you know anything? Were you there?
Right.
Did you hear anything? They didn't do that. And that, I don't know why. They need to definitely be doing that. They need to be searching out this to say who at your wedding party may have heard something or been involved. And was there a bald guy at your wedding by chance? Like maybe he snuck up into the wedding. We don't know.
Do you think that's, I've heard this spouted out. Do you think this is going to end up which I hope it's not, but do you think, and I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, by the way, and I think of a lot more spiritual things in this matter.
Yep.
But like yourself, and I know you're a pastor, but I just wonder, do you think this is going to turn out to be like a cold case like they've been talking about?
Man, I hope not. I really hope that they find Brian. Oh man, I hope, because if nothing else, America now, because we're all so invested in this, we need resolution. And I was a very small child whenever John Benet Ramsey happened, and I still remember everyone talking about that. There's no resolution. I remember the situation with Chris Watts. Even though we know what happened, we were heartbroken by it. But we need resolution on this. And I like what you're saying. People don't realize this, and I hope people that are watching realizes this. Everything is spiritual. We are earthly. We are spiritual beings having an earthly experience. The life that we're living in this moment is a microcosm compared to eternity. Okay. And so everything is spiritual, in my opinion. And we need to be very careful about what negative spiritual influences we allow in our life. And we need to be very intentional about what positive influences you allow. Even what YouTube channels you watch, to me, that can impact you. And
that's why I like that's why I like where you're coming from when you say, when you're coming from a pastoral, reference and from a Christian perspective, because, there's so much out there that, the content and stuff that is fabricated and it's we want to know facts, and and you just have to be careful where you go to get those facts.
That's so true. Well, William, thank you for calling in again. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching my channel.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Jenny, I'm going to add you back. Hopefully your mic's working. I just want to shout out Bryn Kurt James Hammond. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. It's my first day being able to have YouTube members. And so those of you that are joining, it really means a lot. Joe, thank you for being a YouTube member. I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm getting YouTube members. It really means a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for helping me in that way. Jenny, can you hear me? Can we hear you? Please work. Are you there, Jenny? Hello, Jenny? For some reason, Jenny can't hear us. So I don't know what the situation is with her. Frank, thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts?
Hi, I'd like to discuss Cassie Laundrie, Brian's sister, and how she lied to Good Morning America, saying that she hadn't seen Brian since he'd come back to Northport, Florida. I think she did that, or could have done it out of desperation, just so that the press would stop hounding her. I mean, she could be supplying him with money and other supplies now, but I think what it was is if she might have felt if she didn't say something, they were never going to stop banging on her door. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think we need to play both sides of the whole situation, right? So I'm going to put on the screen. This is the email that I got from, I'm on the list for Dog the Bounty Hunter. I got an email from him or his team, whoever sends out his emails. I got an email from them today. And they said specifically about her today. Dog received a tip that Brian's sister Cassie was in Fort DeSoto on September 6th, which seemingly contradicts the previous statement. This information was immediately given to law enforcement this morning. It has been corroborated. No further details are available. So then Stephen Bertolino, the family attorney for the Laundrie family, confirmed, yeah, she was there. She only went for the day or whatever. So She was there. Brian was there. The attorney already said that. So they were all there together. I don't even know why the attorney even answered the question about it, but he did. And anyway, so he answered the question about it. And if I was her and I was in a situation where my brother went missing and they're doing that interview several days later, I mean, it's quite possible that she meant I haven't been able to talk to him in 5 or 6 days, you know, because in the time span of an immediate family member, if you can't talk to them for 5 or 6 days and it's September 11th, 12th, 13th, or 14th, and you're trying to talk to your brother and they won't let you talk to him, that makes sense to make that statement. Like if you're being blocked from talking to someone in your family for 2 days, you might say, "Hey, they're not letting me talk to him." So if we gave her the benefit of the doubt, it would say, "Well, she didn't mean from September 1st to September 6th. She meant from September, 8th through now, presently, or whatever."
Oh, okay, so maybe the media is jumping to conclusions
I
based
think
on
people
what
are
she
jumping
said.
to conclusions on it, but it's frustrating because it feels like when I looked at her face, I'll just say this. When I looked at her face, to me, it looked like as if she was being honest. Like people were saying, no, her neck was all blotchy or whatever. She wasn't being honest. To me, it looked like she was like, no, they won't let me talk to him. I felt like she was being honest about it. And and maybe she meant they haven't let me talk to him in the past 2 days. Now, the other side of it is maybe she's in on all of it and the family is hiding him and she knew from the get-go and she's helped do all of it. Hey, Claire, thank you for the super sticker. It means a lot. Thank you for supporting me in that way. So I don't know, Frank, what do you think?
I think she knows more than she's letting on. I think, unfortunately, it's just the household she was raised in with those parents.
I mean, that's true. I mean, you got to think about that a little bit. So, hey, thank you for calling in.
My pleasure.
Jenny, what's up? How are you? Thank you for calling in today.
Okay. I was just thinking, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you for calling in.
Okay. I was just wondering, I think the FBI ought to check his sister's house. I don't know if they have searched it for Brian, but she could have him held up there, maybe staying in her basement or something. I don't know. Just a thought.
The FBI did go to her house, and I'm sure that she's on surveillance. Okay.
Oh, okay. She might be helping him though. And I also, just my opinion real quick here, I also think he has another burner phone and might be even following like streams like yours or any of the others,
Oh yeah. Hey Joe, thank you for the super sticker. I would say that she definitely has if we went down the path of he's definitely being intentional about this. If that's
Right.
the argument we make, then he would go to buy a phone on the same day that he chooses to go missing because he's doing it to throw everyone off.
Right.
And
Well,
he's
his other
thinking about
phone.
phones. And so, hey, I don't have a phone. I can go down to the Dollar General store next to my house and get a burner phone or whatever. And then the next thing you know. So
And then it can stay a step ahead of the law enforcement that way too.
yeah. Tiffany says might be checking for past abuse, fractures, etc. It's a good point. So what do you think, Jenny? Is he connected to Kylan and Crystal?
It's a little fishy. I think he might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
It's kind of coincidental. It was too close together, I think. It looks fishy.
The thing that sticks out to me, they're in the van life community. Okay, check mark
Right.
number one. They were at the same store, possibly also at Woody's Tavern and Moonflower, maybe at the same two stores together. And then on top of that, we know that after Brian was at the Mary Piglet is whenever Gabby lost her life. While they were at the Mary Piglet, Brian had an explosive blowout that freaked everyone out. Okay. So boom, there you go. Somebody goes missing.
A lot of coincidences.
He's having a blowout outside of the Moonflower, so much so that somebody's calling 911. So thank you for calling in, Jenny.
Thank you. All right.
Detox, welcome back to the stream. How are you, man?
Going on? How you guys doing tonight?
Doing well. What are your thoughts?
Man, I don't not to be too butt heads with you or anything, but I don't understand how I could look at that video and feel get the maybe I'm looking at it with a presupposition or something, or maybe it's just my biases or whatever. But I don't understand how you looked at that video and felt like she was telling the truth, and I would look at the same exact video and feel like she was concealing something. It seems like by the mannerisms and the body language, it seemed like she was trying to convince the reporter that she didn't know. The only other thing I could think of is that she might have honestly had her timelines mixed up, and the newspaper was jumping to conclusions. So that, I mean, to give her the benefit of the doubt, let's just say maybe she had her dates mixed up.
I think way more people agree with you than me, just so you know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm by the way, I'm okay with people disagreeing with me. I don't mind disagreeing at all. I just want it to be without cursing and, you know, respectful. So I think more people are on your side that are not. It's a heartbreaking situation, the whole thing. And if Brian plays the police, like I got the body cam footage up, the second body cam footage up. If Brian, if he played the police in the public in the way that he has, you know, that's probably a skill that's been cultivated by their family.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, from the beginning of this story, watching it, like I tried to give everybody involved the benefit of the doubt. In fact, when the story first broke, which is like maybe a couple weeks ago, I really was like kind of like, well, you know, Brian might not have done it. But the more we see the family, the more we see their behavior, the more I see a sister, the more I see Brian's behavior, it's like I'm starting to feel this is one like super dysfunctional family that will go to the ends of the earth to protect each other from, you know. And so the last thing I wanted to say, as far as the connections, or as far as disagreement, yeah, it's healthy to disagree. That's more, we should promote more, you know, of people having a healthy disagreement, because that's the way we get to the bottom of it without being at each other's throats.
Right.
The last thing I wanted to say was, as far as it's just so weird that wherever this kid goes, bodies are piling up and he's nowhere to be found. Like, you know, it seems highly unlikely. I'm just saying, yo, that's like that's a hell of a coincidence. That's wherever this kid is going, bodies are piling up. I think maybe Gabby knew something, and this is just a loose hypothesis. I'm not saying this is what happened. This is one train of thought that I've been on, is that I think Gabby knew something. I think she knew something about, maybe he went to one of these bars or something, and he got into it with somebody there. He ended up hurting them. Maybe the lesbian couple that he got into it with them, lost his temper, ended up hurting them. I think he might have told Gabby, look, something happened over at this place, and you know, they're gone. And maybe she knew something, and she's like, oh, Brian, you know, we got to tell the authorities. And maybe he flipped out and killed her, like he didn't want to. I was reading a comment somewhere from somebody that supposedly says that they have seen the place where her body was, and that there's footprints where it looks like she might have been wrestling and walking, and then it looked like the footsteps got wider, like she was trying to run away, and then the footsteps stopped. So if that was the case, that could possibly mean that they had an argument and he tried to stop her from running away. Now, the last thing I want to say is that during the autopsy, if they find any type of squamous tissue underneath her fingernails, he's done. That's it. DNA is going to convict him.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, great points. A lot of people in the chat are saying that they were agreeing with you. So thank you for calling in.
You guys have a good night.
Jenny, thank you for the support of the channel. Definitely appreciate all the support. Thank you guys. Timeout is saying the cops wanted her. So good. Tanika, how are you? Are you there? Can you hear me? Tanika, how are you?
Hello. Oh, I was just sending a private message to you. Hello.
Okay, you're gonna have to mute your YouTube. Okay, you're gonna have to get off YouTube.
I was just sending a private.
I'm gonna mute her for just a second and give her a chance to get off of YouTube. Because I know whenever we have people echoing that it's hard for everyone to hear. So.
Can you hear me
All
now?
right. We can hear you, but did you get off of YouTube?
I paused it because
Okay.
I can't hear you on the other phone that I'm using.
Okay, that's great. So thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just received because I'm following breaking news as well, and I'm also following your channel, so I love your channel. First of
Thank you
all,
so much. Thank you.
I just received breaking news talking about police received tips that Brian Laundrie may be hiding in I don't know how you pronounce that shit. Trail. APPALACHIAN trail.
Yeah,
I just
that was news from earlier today that
oh
he
no
may.
no no, this is just now. Like
I know,
I'm
but
looking at it on my phone. That's crazy.
I know, but that was an old tip. They're just reposting it. So, but I do appreciate you calling in on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. But I
And
think the parents got something to do with it. Any parent that has a child knows their child and they know when they're lying. So I
yeah,
honestly believe they lying about something and they know what's going on. They're just not trying to tell you where their child is.
don't you
You
think they
get my
thought
drift.
something was up whenever he came home from a trip and
Ex-
his fiance wasn't with him and he was in her
exactly.
vehicle?
Red flag right there.
Big time red flag. So, what about
She's
Kylan and
staying
Crystal?
with
Do you
them.
think they're connected?
Um, most definitely.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
think all this is connecting, but
Yeah.
I think the parents is really hiding everything from everybody, and they don't want to give up their child because
It's
of 5. So I know if my kids did something, I'm gonna find out the truth, and if my
yep.
kids are lying, they're gonna get dealt with. But if they're not lying, I'm gonna find out what's going on with my child.
Right.
Every parent knows their child.
Right.
Every parent.
Yep.
There's not a parent out here that can't say that they don't believe their child or trust a child or
But
you
parents are
know
going to stick up for their child too.
exactly, and that's the key thing right there. Parents
So,
is gonna stick up for their child, so they know something, they just not saying nothing.
well, Tanika, thank you for calling in. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for liking and subscribing. It means a lot when you do things like that.
And I love your channel so much. I watch out all day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well,
You're
bless you.
welcome.
Brent, I'm going to add you and
Oh my God! Hi,
hey,
hello.
hang on just a
Trying to
second.
say this.
William, thank you for becoming a member on our channel. It really means a lot, and thank you. Just today, my members were being able to be added, and if you're joining the calls, make sure to keep it clean. I want to make sure that it's a clean phone conversation. I have a very strict rule that we're going to honor. My way of life. Okay. My dad used to say Satan leaves a path of fire. Hey, Tammy, that's a great quote. Satan does leave a path of fire. I've never heard it said that way, but that has to be true. Okay, Brent, I'm going to unmute you. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for being on the
Okay.
channel. What are your
Hi.
thoughts today?
Right. Well, for one, I work for the BBC and I've got a best-selling book. However, I do believe that Brian is, well, whatever you want to call him in America, he has some, link to the 2 girls. It's crazy. It is very crazy. I've been on Twitter all day talking about it, and the DNA swab that happened yesterday was a Nick. Everyone keeps talking NIK. So you've got that. It's a Nick kit, which is for possibly drugs and stuff. So, it's but the double footage, I'm just watching it as you're looking at it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I do believe that Brian has, well, he definitely had something to do with his girlfriend's murder. The 2 Weddy girls, well, maybe. I am still 50-50 on that one. The other guy, no way. Brian has definitely got some mental health issues.
Well, yeah.
That is without a doubt. And I genuinely feel that it could have, because you're watching it as I'm watching it. She's really distressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel maybe after the restaurant, maybe he got a bit angry. I don't know. I really genuinely feel that I'm hoping. What do you feel? I do feel that the family should give him up.
Yeah. Yeah. if the family knows where he's at, and they might
Well,
not
it's
know, they
clear.
might have
You
just set
know,
him off.
you've got to be honest. Like I've done Elias Files. I've done a lot of best-selling books. This is the family are literally terrified, and I do feel that I don't know what they're terrified about. I've looked at the family several times. I've got one of my friends at work on site. This geezer, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm just like, for
I
me,
agree. She's clearly in distress.
no, but what do you think about him? He's unhinged. I
Yeah.
don't know
Oh,
onto
without a
what
doubt.
level.
Without a doubt. I mean, from my perspective, Bryn, the way that I view the world,
Yeah,
it's through a spiritual lens. First off,
I know. Well, that my
but
best friend, Lisa Appleton, we've got you can watch our show on. I'm not the crystal spiritualist, but she is. But this geezer is, I don't know what he's been smoking, but he's really challenged
he's
in terms
he's
of,
for sure narcissist, possibly schizophrenic, maybe beyond narcissist, and is a psychopath. Hey, Bryn, thank you
yeah,
for
but
calling in today.
thank you. God bless. Mwah.
Appreciate you. I want to read this super chat from Carson and Samuel. I'm adding you to the chat. Carson says, notice the two other women killed have relatively similar facial features as Gabby. Maybe Brian was into that type of woman. I think they all hung out, to say the least. You know, Carson, that's something I haven't thought about, and I could see that. I could see that there is definitely a physical attraction to what was going on, and maybe his urges got the best of him or whatever. I mean, but I would say that they did build a relationship and friendship together, and so there you go. Samuel, can you hear us?
I can.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. What are your thoughts on all of this?
My thoughts are this is an abusive man, right? So this guy keeps a girl in his van for going on trips to have a relationship. You know, he obviously has been doing this for a while to her, very comfortable with being abusive and then convincing her that everything's gonna be okay. So
Right.
I mean, the type of man that he is, he's probably not going to commit suicide or do anything like that. He's probably either too egotistical about himself, he can get away. And then he also has the safety net of his parents. So, and the experience of the outdoors. So he's probably way far gone from anywhere we think he is right now. He's probably skipped through all of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's been some time.
I mean, I think a lot of people agree with you, Samuel. Thank you for calling in today. Thank you for supporting my channel.
Of course.
I want to read this super chat from Christina, because Christina, this is actually something that I thought about too. Like I thought that it's very, because what I was doing was saying that there's a similarity between what happened in the Chris Watts case and what was happening in this case, right? So if you look at what happened in the Chris Watts case, they bring him in for questioning and he's being interrogated. While he's being interrogated, he's like, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And then the police officer that's interrogating him makes this statement. He says, well, is it possible that, your wife, Shanann, murdered your daughters and you just freaked out and so you took care of her and then you didn't know what to do? And then he said, can I talk to my dad? And then he brings his dad into the room and he basically tells his dad, listen, Shanann went crazy and on the girls and I had to take care of her and this is the situation I'm in. And he just totally lies. He was lying the whole time and then lied to his parents. I think it's entirely plausible that what your theory is, that Brian Laundrie told his family that Gabby Petito and, that Kylan and Crystal were murdered and Gabby was murdered and he needs to hide until they find the real killer. Like, hey, I'm completely innocent. They're going to think it's me. I didn't know what to do. All of it's connected. I took off and I'm hiding because I'm scared for my life too, or whatever. And so I think that's a totally plausible theory of what could be happening. So Tranquil, thanks for calling back. What are your thoughts?
Oh, thanks, man. I didn't even think you would add me back. Uh, yeah. So the latest news about Brian's sister makes me think the worst, man. I think if she was there in that campground, I have a bad feeling that they must have gathered as a family to say their final goodbyes.
Could be.
And
They could have bought
speaking,
that camper and said, "We're having our last family hoorah," and this,
yeah,
we might not see Brian again. They could have just cried for 3 days or whatever, right? And then they said, "All right, Brian, you got to figure this out, and we're going to stay silent." And my impression is Stephen Bertolino, the family attorney that they hired, was somebody that was a family friend to them because they were from New York. Why in Florida would you hire an attorney from New York that has to fly to Florida to meet with you? That doesn't make any sense. So
yeah. I mean, I will not give up on uh, the possibility of finding him now that so many high-profile organizations are involved, and the third parties like John Walsh and the infamous Dog the Bounty Hunter. I will not give up on that possibility, but uh, I feel they met one final time and snuck him out of the country.
right.
That's all.
Well,
That's all I feel. Where he went after that, that is to be found.
And then Josh sent us a super chat. Thank you, Tranquil Pilot, for being on. Josh sent us a super chat and says Walter Boyce Springs State Park is an area of interest during evening hours. Flashlights have been seen in a small campfire, and so somebody sent me a helicopter path earlier today, and they were sort of circling around some of these areas, and so I think you could be onto something. Alyssa, thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts today? You're muted currently. We can't hear you because you're muted. Oh man, she's really talking a lot. I mean, you're still muted. Can you
There we
unmute?
go.
Okay,
You
I'm
can
like, you're really saying some stuff and nobody's able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I'm saying my family lives
Okay,
in
I'm like, you're really saying some stuff and nobody's able to hear you. Okay, so hang on a second. You're gonna have to close out of YouTube
Can you hear
because
me now? Wait one second.
Okay, I'm gonna give her a second so that she can close out of YouTube.
Hello?
Okay, did you close out of YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, I had to mute you for a second because I don't like the relay. Okay,
Totally okay.
now everything should be good.
I've been following this since the beginning, and my family lives in Sarasota, and they've heard nothing but anything about this.
I'm sure.
And honestly, I'm really curious as to why the family hasn't come forward. And not only that, but I really think that he lied to his family about what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm just so curious why a family would not turn in their own child.
I think I think that's a thought that a lot of people have, but then at the same time, they're like, well, it's my own child. Why would I turn in my own child?
I've had
And in
conversations with my parents, and they said they would have turned me in right away.
Yeah, it's hard though when you're actually in that situation, and we don't know. Like that super chat said a second ago, it was like, well, he could have lied to them, and you're gonna believe your kid. I listen. I've seen parents think their kid was the star athlete, and they were the worst athlete in the world. And just you have different eyes to see. And so, Alyssa, you're thinking a way that a lot of people are thinking, and so thank you for calling in. Do you think that he's connected to Kylan and Crystal?
I do actually, because there's too many coincidences.
Yeah. That's what
And
I'm like. If nothing else, there's a connection. I don't know what the connection is, but if nothing else, there's a connection between them. And so thank you, Alyssa, for calling in today. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome.
I appreciate you supporting my channel.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to go through some of this timeline. And by the way, if you're calling in, you have questions about the timeline or some of the stuff that we're going through, feel free to do that. Man, I'm so grateful. We've already had. I think I just checked it. I think we've had like 5 people join the membership thing today. First time I'm able to do memberships. I cannot believe it. We've had 4 people join the member level, and then we've had Tammy who joined the producer level. And so thank you so much for supporting the channel in that way. I can't even believe I'm to the point in my YouTube channel where they're letting me do that. And then boom, yes, you guys are actually supporting in that way. It's a major blessing for me. It's a huge blessing for me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. As we look at this timeline, we were all the way to August 12th. On August 12th is when we see the body cam footage of the encounter between Brian and Gabby, and this encounter that they had with the police. And what we know about this day was that the original sort of conversation that we were having, and I think it's evolving as more information is uncovered, is that if we're connecting and thinking about what they were doing that day, they were at Moonflower that day. Brian says they were at Moonflower we're talking about August 12th right now. That Brian was saying that they were at Moonflower for basically from 9 to 3 for 6 hours that day. I assume it's a place where people come to hang out and work on the internet, and that they were working on their website, or Gabby was working on her website that particular day. When they leave the store, they get in a big argument. The call was like at 3:39 or whatever. They get pulled over a few minutes later. As they get pulled over, initially for going really fast, like speeding. And then the other police officer pulls up. We've learned yesterday as the second body cam was released and says, hey, we got a call that a man was smacking a female, was smacking a woman. What's going on with that? You could see the look of terror in the eyes. And so that's what's happening on August 12th. They get separated that night. Okay, that's what we know. And then on August 19th is whenever the YouTube video from Gabby and Brian is posted on their Nomadic Static channel. I want to shout out Carol, who joined as a member. Carol, thank you for joining as a YouTube member. It means a lot that you do that. I'm checking the comments. Let's see. His sister probably be brought on federal charges. Yeah, I mean, if she lied like that, I mean, it's very possible that she would be brought in on federal charges. Definitely interesting. They were going, somebody says going 45 and a 30. No, they were going 45 and a 15, and then they hit the curb. And so initially they got pulled over for going too fast. Okay. And then somebody's talking about narcissism. I've studied narcissism in depth. Okay. I went to a lot of graduate level education, specifically in counseling. And so I have sort of my bearing for some of this stuff. And so let's see what you say. I think being a covert narcissist, he was so angry about the traffic stop that he never came down for that because of how obsessed they appear to be in public. I mean, a narcissist in general wants to guard their public persona. Definitely, for sure. And at the heart of it is there's somebody who's extremely insecure. And so when their insecurity is threatened, and they want to play the victim or the hero. Okay. Book Tony, thank you so much for the support of the channel. So many people, this person, Wanda, I'm just looking at your comment. You're saying you were married to a narcissist. I think one of the reasons that so many people can connect to this is because we're connecting about, we're connecting because some of us have been in toxic relationships and we know what narcissists are like and what it means to be caught up in the web of that relationship. And then on top of that or beyond that, when we see Gabby, we see somebody who's a family member of ours. We see somebody who is a niece or a daughter or a sister, and it breaks our heart to see somebody that we love and care about in the eyes of Gabby whenever we look at it. And so whenever I think through that, I think those are some of the reasons why we're so connected to this. And then once we started learning about this situation, what we end up finding out is there's so many twists and turns that we end up on it. Here's kind of how I got on. Number one, I've always had a little bit of interest in some of these cold case or crime situations, even since I was a kid. It's like the mystery of it. I like to be involved in it. And then another thing that happened to me a couple of months ago, I got COVID. And after I got COVID, it's been several months, it's been like 3 months since I've had COVID. I haven't been fully recovered. And I'm actually wearing, if you guys can see, I'm wearing a heart monitor. I've been wearing a heart monitor for almost a month now, because every time since I've had COVID that I stand up, my heart rate jumps to like 160 or 170. And so I've spent a lot of time where I'm usually very busy. I'm not at my home very much. I'm doing a lot of work. I love being around people. And since I've had this situation with COVID in my heart, every time I stand up, I just, my heart rate goes crazy and I feel very sick. And so one of the things that happened to me was sort of at the same time, all the stuff with Gabby's case came out and I got really interested in it. And I joined the channel of somebody else just as a guest one day on Popcorn Planet. He had me on as a guest one day, and I'd never done a YouTube live video like this other than I've pre-recorded videos and put them on YouTube. And I wanted to get on Ikid Mel's channel and talk to him about this thing that happened. And then I just felt, this might sound weird to some of you guys. I really felt like in my heart, the Lord told me that I needed to go and do this on my own channel. So I posted a video on my own channel, and it was last Friday. It was a week ago on Friday, and I couldn't believe it. We had a couple thousand people that joined. And then Friday night, I'm learning it's not the best night to do a live, but so many of you are on here and I appreciate it. But earlier this week, we had a stream that had over 20,000 people. And my YouTube channel was just a tiny YouTube channel. And I really feel like the Lord's blessing it, sending you guys to bless me with it. And so that's sort of part of the journey that I got on. When I see Gabby, I see somebody who's a part of the internet community, like many of us are. Okay. And so, thank you, Jetta, for your comment. You're saying, I have one thought. Do you all think that have a scanner who's listening to love the show? Yeah. Do you think, I think what you're saying is, do you think that Brian maybe has a channel and he's listening to the show? It's very possible. He might definitely be listening to the show. And so Eliza says, I'm so sorry you're going through that. Thank you. Thank you for, and I'm praying for healing on it. I believe and by the way, if any of you need healing in your bodies in any way, I've seen God heal an incredible amount of people. I've been a part of helping a movie come out about it called Sin Proof, where these healings are medically verified. You can email me at any time if you need prayer, especially for healing in your body. Elle is saying POTS. Yeah, I think I have POTS. She's saying, do you have POTS? It's called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I think I have POTS. I hope it goes away. But if you need prayer for healing in any part of your body, you can email me and I'd love to pray for you. I've seen God heal so many people. Pearl, thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts?
Hi, how you going? I'm in Sydney, Australia, so on the other side of the globe, and I'm following this in your show. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well,
the
you
reason
for tuning
I'm
in.
so interested in this is because I was married to a malignant narcissist for 30 years.
Yeah, I'm
and
sorry.
I can see all the characteristics
Mm-hmm.
and the behavior in Brian that
Mhm.
I experienced myself. I was the highly dysregulated, emotional nutcase by the time, the marriage was starting to disintegrate. And when malignant narcissists feel that they're losing control of someone, they ramp it up and
Oh, yeah.
things escalate very, very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what's happened to Brian. I think their relationship had hit a really rough patch, and Gabby may have, suggested separating.
Yeah.
And I think he has become increasingly controlling.
Right.
Things like taking her phone from her, trying to control her.
Yep.
And then I think things just started to unravel. And I think it started from that police stop onwards.
Do you think that it's connected to Kyla and Crystal?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. I think he thinks that Kylan witnessed the assault and that she may have been the person who reported him to the police, because the second body cam footage that's come out now actually says or shows the policeman walking over to his window and stating very clearly that they'd received a couple of reports from outside Moonflower down in Moab. So I think he's put two and two together and thought that it was one of those girls. And I think he has deliberately gone back to silence them.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Pearl, thank you for calling in today. Appreciate
No
your
worries.
insights all the way from Sydney.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Appreciate people calling in. And as we look back at the timeline, we just got done talking about the Kyla and Crystal thing on August 12th. We'll go more in depth in that if you guys want me to a little bit later. This is just a brief overview timeline. August 24th, Gabby spotted at a hotel in Salt Lake City, Utah. This is interesting because some of the theory behind this is, and it's because Gabby's uncle had made a statement saying that from August 17th through 23rd, Brian himself had gone on a trip back to Florida to take care of Gabby's stuff that was in the Laundrie household and to put it into storage. That's an interesting thing to do in and of itself. They were not, there's no reports of them being seen together at this hotel, but there's also no reports of them being seen separately. Whenever the dad was interviewed or asked about this on the Dr. Phil show, he never mentioned Brian being at the hotel. The thing that he said was that he and Gabby had a conversation about this website that they were working on. and they're working on that website. And I thought that was interesting because the dad doesn't know anything about a website, and he's helping her watch videos on YouTube how to fix it. And then he said that she was having trouble getting food ordered, and so he ordered food for her off the Domino's app, and then Domino's was delivered. And then the hotel, which was the Fairfield Inn next to Salt Lake City, Utah airport, the Fairfield Inn said that they confirmed that Gabby had been staying there for multiple days. And so we don't know exactly how many days that they were there, but she was there at least for several days. Okay. And then on the 25th, Gabby FaceTimes her mom, Nicole Schmidt. This is the final time that there was a FaceTime, according to Nicole, between Gabby and her mom. And later in the police report, Schmidt said that in the conversation, her daughter revealed more and more tensions between Brian. So it's almost like she was letting her mom know, like, yeah, this road trip's getting pretty tough. And listen, I've gone on a road trip, with my ex-girlfriend before across the country, and it was like 8 days, and there were moments of great fun. We had incredible times at some parts of it. But whenever you're in a car together for that long, there's also some moments of high tension. Okay. And so we definitely had some tension moments along the way. It's not the easiest things to do on it. And some of you, I can see some of you who are on the stream, I can see your faces. You're shaking your heads like, yeah, definitely. If you go on a road trip with somebody, it can definitely get that kind of way. Supercell says the Fairfield Inn is an expensive hotel. That's something that I was picking on too, because it's not the cheapest hotel in the world. Like, it's not the most expensive hotel. It's a Marriott hotel, but I don't know how much it is next to the airport. It's probably at least $120 a night. Depending on what time of the season it is. So it's not the cheapest hotel. And whenever I think about their financial situation, the number one cause of divorce in America is because of finances. And so I can imagine some definite tension building because of finances. And it sounds like Gabby had money saved, Brian did not. And so there was sort of this competing tension going on between the two. The dad may have paid for the hotel room. He didn't say that in the interview. The dad may have paid for the hotel. The mom said she had sent money at times to Gabby. So I don't know. There's a lot to that that's unknown. It's all speculation. We want to stick with facts. And that's what somebody's saying, like, let's just stick on objective facts. Well, we're sticking to the most facts that we know. And we know that the dad said, yeah, Gabby had money. Like, that was a question that was asked by Dr. Phil. Yeah, Gabby has money. Okay. Okay. Let's keep going on. So the FaceTime on August 25th between Gabby and her mom reveals that there's tension rising. On the 25th, Gabby posts on her Instagram. She typically tags locations in her Instagram. And, well, there was no tagging of a location, which just seems... It seems, a little bit strange at this point. Okay. And so then when we look at what's happening on the 27th, Gabby is seen for what's to believe the final time. Interesting. Witnesses claim that they saw Brian in an explosive argument with staff at a restaurant. That restaurant, I'm going to go ahead and add it here, was called the Mary Piglet. And somebody named Nina saw this argument and was the one to report it. And they said that Brian was so upset, he left the restaurant and went back in the restaurant many, many, many times. Okay. And like 4 or 5 times. Now, I've been upset and dissatisfied with the service of a restaurant. I've never gone into a restaurant multiple times like that. Okay. I've never got so frustrated that I left the car, went back in, left the restaurant, went back in, went back outside, went back in. Like, it's never happened. And so, and to be causing a scene too on top of all that, that's never happened to me. I've never done that. And I've worked at it when I was in high school. I worked at a restaurant called Colton Steakhouse and Grill. It's kind of like Texas Roadhouse. People didn't ever do that. There'd be people that were upset and they'd get mad and leave, or even mad and leave without paying. But coming back in and just trying to harass, that's a sign of people are saying narcissist. That's a sign of a narcissist. I mean, they just rail you. And so I think that's interesting. Gabby's crying. Brian's freaking out. That's all reported later. And then 4 hours later, so after there's been a big freak out on August 27th, 4 hours later, I hate when they say travel bloggers. It's not travel bloggers. It's travel vloggers named Red, White, and Bethune were traveling through the Grand Teton National Park, and they drive past the couple's van abandoned on a dirt road. And so what Red, White, and Bethune were saying about this encounter on August 27th is that number one, they were just watching TV and they said, was anybody at this dispersed camping area? Can you help us out? Do you have anything to say about this? And then when they say they're in the dispersed camping area, this Red, White, and Bethune happened to be working on their edit from August 27th, and they drove by the road. And this is what led us to finding of Gabby's body. And so actually I have some screenshots of all of this right here. I want to put it on the screen for you guys so that you can see it, because I think it's interesting. So what we see is, this is sort of the picture that I put on screen right now. This is sort of the picture that you see from them driving by the van. You see something circled back there in the background. We don't know what it is, but they drive by and they see the van there on their footage. And then whenever we are able to then take a little bit deeper of a look at the dispersed camping area, those are the campsites on the dispersed camping area, okay? Those are the camping sites in the dispersed camping area. So we can sort of break down, we find out which camping area that Brian and Gabby were at based on the pictures that we see. And I got one more picture for you, and this one's going to show you in relationship to where we saw that van at, where unfortunately Gabby's body was discovered. And so there's the pink one there. That's where the van was at. And then the orange one there is where her body is found. And so when I scroll back up here and you see the van, and then you sort of see that circle, what that's trying to do is make the connection for you to see, well, this is where the van was, and then this is where the body was found. And so this pink dot, that's where the van was. And then over there in the Spread Creek, that's where the body was found. Okay. Somebody in the comments saying, you don't do your research, do you? It's been debunked that there's someone. I'm not saying, I didn't say there, like, did anybody hear me say there's somebody in the background digging? I never said that. I said there's something circled there. All right. And basically what I wanted to point out was something that I did point out was, orange is where the body was. Pink is where the van is. Orange is where the body was. Pink is where the van was. Okay. That's all I said. All right. So if you have a problem with my research, then you can go find somebody else's channel to look at. All right. I feel like I put a pretty thorough timeline together for you guys to go through it. And I feel like this picture is clear and plain and has been verified. So there you guys see it. There's where the van was, and there's where the parking is at. And then the next thing we know is on September 1st, Brian returns home to Florida. And on August 31st, I know this to be true because where I live at, he stopped at a gas station in Illinois, and I went to I made a video about it on my channel. He stopped at a gas station in Illinois and used Gabby's debit card, because I went and interviewed the manager and had a conversation with the manager, and used her debit card, used her PIN number, withdrew some cash, and left the store. And that's actually the thing that he ended up getting the a warrant over, was using what's called an access device, somebody's access device. And so I found that an interesting thing to say, an interesting note to make. And then you can sort of debunk, well, what route did he take home? Well, just type in, if you want to go look at the map, just type in the route from Wyoming to Northport, Florida. That's the route that he took home, which includes driving by this gas station called Casey's General Store. And then on September 1st, there's pictures of the license plate on a license plates cam of this van, Gabby's van, the van that they were converted to live into, entering into Florida. Okay. And so that's September 1st. And it's not, this is the most heartbreaking part. It is not until September 11th. September 11th. All right. When's the last time that anybody heard from Gabby? August 27th. When is it likely that the worst happened to Gabby? August 27th. And if Brian is guilty of the homicide, it's likely that when they left the Mary Piglet on August 27th, it's likely that that's the day that it happened. Okay. What we know after August 27th is a couple days later, he was picked up hitchhiking. And we went in depth on that the other night about the hitchhiking, where he was at, who picked him up. When they picked him up, they started driving towards Jackson. He freaked out. They let him out. Somebody else picked him up and drove him all the way over to where his car was at. Okay. And so the thought is, on the 27th, the worst happened. Brian was involved with it, and then went back into where the campground area was at, and then hiked 17 or 18 or 20 miles to go take a shower at this place, and then took a ride back and then drove home to Florida. So on September 1st, we see him driving back to Florida. And then the heartbreaking thing, it's not until September 11th that Gabby's parents report her missing. Can you believe that? My goodness, that is heartbreaking. It is not until September 11th that Gabby's parents report her missing. On September 14th, Brian's family issues a statement saying he's retained an attorney. Well, why are they retaining an attorney? They retained that attorney, what seems like to me, when the police knocked on the door to say, hey, is Brian here? He's a person of interest in the missing of Gabby Petito. And they said, you're going to have to speak to our lawyer. It's like they knew what was happening. Okay. The last alleged sighting of Brian was at the AT&T store. He purchases a phone at AT&T, leaves it behind, tells his family he's going hiking in the Carlton Reserve, and fails to return. Okay. Everyone, it seems like, not everyone, but 90% of people in our polls and things that we're talking about, they seem to believe it's very unlikely that Brian was even in the Carlton Reserve to begin with, that it was all sort of one of the things they were doing was to throw him off. It's very unlikely that Brian was in the Carlton Reserve. September 15th, the Northport police say that they announced Brian is a person of interest. On September 16th, the Utah police released the body cam footage of the police encounter with Brian and Gabby. On September 17th, Brian's parents say they've not seen their son in a couple of days and report him missing. On September 18th, so now we have Brian as a missing person. On September 18th, the police announced that they're searching the Carlton Reserve in Florida. The Northport police, along with 15 other agencies, there's 16 agencies in total, announced that they begin to search the Carlton Reserve for Brian. And then the police announced that they have not found anything. And then on September 19th, authorities in Wyoming say they found a body in the Grand Teton National Park. FBI announces that the body was believed to be Gabby's, but the full forensic ID needs to be completed first to confirm. On the 20th, police execute a search warrant. They take the Mustang, they take a hard drive, they take any other evidence, and it was a pretty thorough, what felt like a digital hardware device search. They took it with them to make sure to prove whether or not a felony had been committed. September 21st, officials announced they'll be conducting an autopsy on the remains. Notice it says remains of Gabby Petito's body. And then on the 21st, the FBI announced that the body was found. It was Gabby's, they for sure. And then the cause of death still has yet to be revealed. On the 21st, again, the Teton County Coroner's Office said that Gabby's official death was pending, but they did say this, that it's a homicide. There's 5 different types of deaths in the United States. One of them's homicide, one of them's suicide, one of them's natural causes, one of them's they don't know. This particular case, they said it was a homicide. In other words, a human being acted with ill intent and caused her demise. On September 22nd, police continue to scour the Carlton Reserve for a trace of Laundrie, but yield no leads. And they send a specialist dive team in to assist with the hunt. Okay. I don't know what they're trying to see with a specialist dive team. I know there's a lot of alligators there. I've listened to the local officials on this. They're saying we don't have a problem with alligators necessarily getting people. Snakes are a bigger issue out here. Somebody sent me an email today. They say, is it possible that an alligator chewed up Brian? I don't think so. September 23rd, officials announced a federal arrest warrant. On the 25th, Dog the Bounty Hunter joined the search for Brian, and it set the internet ablaze. Some of you guys are freaking out about that. They thought it was a publicity stunt. 26th, Gabby's funeral's held. 27th, FBI takes over the case from Northport. They scale back the efforts on Carlton Reserve. Interesting. Northport police was leading it, and they're searching in Carlton Reserve. It's interesting. Dog the Bounty Hunter joins, and then 2 days later, the FBI decides to join the case. There's a whole lot going on here. There's a lot on this particular time frame that I think we need to talk about. That's interesting. It needs to be more dove into. The Northport police, obviously, they're going to look in their local areas. They don't have jurisdiction outside of it. FBI is assisting them, but then takes over 2 days after Dog the Bounty Hunter takes over. They scale back their efforts, and they say we're going after more targeted intelligence. And then on the 29th, Dog the Bounty Hunter follows leads to Fort DeSoto, Florida. On the 31st, the second, which is yesterday, the second body cam footage is released, and we learned a whole lot of what happened yesterday. And then today, I learned from the email that Dog's team sent me today that Brian's sister was caught lying, and she said that she was not allowed to talk in an interview with Good Morning America. However, she was at the campground in Fort DeSoto on September 6th, and that was the same time that Brian was there. And like one of our callers earlier said, well, maybe it was during that call that they were having earlier, or that meeting that they were having earlier, that it was them saying their final goodbyes. Christopher says, hey, Tyler, Ryan Upchurch has some theories. What's your opinions on it? I haven't. The last time I played a video, I just got to be honest. Last time I played a video of Ryan Upchurch and looked at it, it just had too much foul language in it for me, and so I sort of just, honestly, I just took it off. I haven't paid attention to Ryan Upchurch. Somebody says, I suspect Tyler and Gavis had a disagreement. We did not have a disagreement at all. In fact, I only know Gavis from calling into the show. He's just a caller whenever he's on here. And hey, I really like Gavis, and Gavis is welcome to join the channel anytime he wants. When he goes through the timeline, he said he needs 16 hours to go through the timeline. The way I live my life and the job that I have, I don't have 16 hours to go through. I imagine Gavis will be on the show again within the next couple of days. He's welcome on anytime tonight that he wants to join on. And so, he is a full. He and I had a great conversation last night after the live stream ended for a bit, and he and I are on the perfect same page on a lot of this stuff. And so I support Gavis. He supports me. I don't have 16 hours to go through. I don't have 16 hours to go through the timeline, but I appreciate the work that he puts in, and he wants to go through it. And he's done a lot of thorough research on it. Victoria, thank you for calling in. What are your thoughts?
Hello. God bless you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you for calling in.
It's not echoing, is it?
It's not echoing at all. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm from Canada. I'm praying for all you guys over there. We all need to stick together in this pandemic, in this time of need. I'm hiding my face because I'm camera shy, but I honestly believe that he's not in Florida. He's in New York. And the reason why I say that is because that family owns a lot of business there. And their first trip started in New York. Now, if you take, if he would have went back up to New York, he could have took a ferry or a boat. Because if you go they're from Long Island, there's a place, and it starts with the B. I don't know the name of it, but it starts with the B. And you can get on the ferry, and it takes them to all the businesses. I honestly think he's in New York with his brother, Joseph.
I mean, great. I mean, that's a great observation. Totally possible, Victoria. I mean, it's totally a plausible theory without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. However, I think Dog the Bounty Hunter is onto something. I think he's on the right path, too. And he's not searching in New York. He's searching in Florida, and he made a home base in Marco Island, and he's been searching, more closely in Fort DeSoto.
I feel really bad for this family, for all the parties.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I look at it is that they need Jesus. We all do.
Yeah.
I mean, every day we need him. But I do pray for the families because, I mean, that family lost a daughter.
Yep.
They lost a sister.
Yep.
It's not fair. I was in an abusive relationship for a long time, and I had to get out. And when you're not tired, a person has to be tired to say enough's enough and leave. And if they're not tired, they stick around and they constantly make excuses. And that's what I did. And I thank
anybody
God.
that's been in any type of a toxic relationship understands how difficult it is to get out of it. I mean, once you're in it, and it's a spiral, and and what you do is you drag other people into it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're exactly right. And then like people were saying Brian doesn't have any friends. Well, he didn't have any friends because he was, he was clearly a toxic person. And you're definitely right on the money. Thank you, Victoria, for calling in. I appreciate it.
No problem. And I'm praying for you. Can I just pray for you right now?
Sure. Yeah.
So, Father God, I lift up your son, your servant. You know everything about him. You know that he loves you. And I just pray that you send your supernatural healing upon his heart right now due to this COVID that he suffered. Father God, I pray, Lord Jesus, that you send healing to it. And I pray that you heal him on the inside out in the name of Jesus. Also cover his family as he's doing your work, your kingdom work to be done. And I just pray that you send more people his way to be able to learn about Jesus and to be saved, to get saved, because we all know we're in the last days. It's coming. Your kingdom is going to come. And I just pray for everybody on this line right now. If you don't know Jesus, just ask him into your heart and he will forgive your sins and wash them clean. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Victoria, for the prayer. Appreciate
No
it.
problem. God bless everybody.
Thank you. Christopher, what's up, man? I want to remind you, thank you guys for calling in. Keep it clean, okay? And the reason I don't have the Ryan Up Church stuff is because I try to go down that road. He was using foul language. I just don't want to deal with it. So you can give us a synopsis of it.
Yeah, thanks again, Tyler. So I don't follow Ryan that much. It popped up in my feed after watching you last night with your live. And basically it showed a video of a RV with a TV turned off, and it said it was I believe a Twitter post from Brian, and it said I'm innocent. And then Ryan found a face in the TV that was turned off, and he was able to find from looking up the locations another person who looked Asian descent, who has a girlfriend that's been missing for X amount of time. And in those photos, that girlfriend that's missing is with the Asian guy. So there's theories about either this guy is helping Brian or has something to do with it. And it also had to do with some other stuff, which I didn't follow that much, but it followed the RV that was involved. It followed a trailer and some other vehicles and the locations of where Gabby was found and a couple other landmarks, which is in your timeline. So it was pretty interesting. Obviously, the language isn't the best for all audiences, but I thought it was something maybe you should look into to get your own opinion on and give us light on without the foul language, I was hoping.
Yeah, I saw the picture from the RV thing. I didn't superimpose it or zoom in on the television thing. The thing that I thought about that picture was interesting was that the family supposedly had a second camper somewhere. And so some of my theory in the beginning was like, well, if he drove the Mustang to the Carlton Reserve to throw everyone off, he had a getaway car parked there possibly. Is he going to leave the car at the Carlton Reserve, make everybody search the Carlton Reserve? He gets off in the getaway car, and they had this camper parked in some, either government land or some private land that they own that nobody knows anything about. And he goes off to this other camper. And so the picture from inside of the camper, I was like, well, you never know everything's possible. I don't know what's plausible at this
There's
point.
also a video of a van, which one of the YouTubers that found this RV, and they were looking in their backlog, and when they were driving up the road where the RV was found, a van back door was closing. They first opened it, and then when they saw someone was coming, they closed the door. So they're suspecting that could have been Brian as well. Also, I had a question about your opinion about the Appalachian Trail, if you think he could be anywhere through there, maybe hiding out.
Absolutely. In fact, we did a deep dive into it one night, and I thought possibly he's at the Low Gap campground, which is it's sort of like the beginning that some people call it Ellijay, Georgia, or around Dawsonville, Georgia. By the way, we had somebody watching from Dawsonville, Georgia. There's a great church in Georgia called Christ Fellowship Church in Dawsonville, Georgia. Anyways, that he could have been out in that area to begin with, the low gap campground, because we went to their website and says this is a dispersed camping area for people who like clandestine camping, which is hiding, like you don't want anybody to see you. And I thought that's really interesting. There were several Instagram posts from Gabby and Brian, both of them hanging out in that area, and so it's very possible that he's there. The communication that we got from Lisa the other day was saying that they had been given a tip about North Carolina, but nothing was substantiated. Lisa is Dog's daughter. Nothing had been substantiated, and we needed to pray if it was. So
I would hate to interrupt you, and I'm sorry. There was also claims of other murderers that have hidden on the Appalachian Trail through Georgia and other places. I actually live in Massachusetts, which is the end. The Appalachian Trail goes right through my yard, which would go from Georgia to here. So I think he could definitely be traveling through that, which is kind of scary to think about. He could be anywhere.
Right.
My other idea is, we're not ones to judge. We're supposed to believe and trust all people and give them the benefit of the doubt. And with the FBI and the authorities not accusing him of murder, but of the credit card fraud, I know all signs are pointing towards Brian, and I might be one of the few. Do you think maybe with these other accusations of the murders and with this Asian couple and all this other stuff, he could have been maybe just at the wrong place at the wrong time and panicked or anything like that?
I mean, that's plausible, but when we hear the reports that Brian was controlling, when we hear the reports that Brian is it clearly suffers from anxiety and depression go together. A lot of times people who are narcissistic have extreme depression swings because they're so insecure. And so there's a whole lot to unpack there, that it seems unlikely that it's just happenstance or coincidence. And it feels...
I don't agree with that, or I don't disagree with that at all. I'm not one trying to victim shame or anything, but there's a lot of finger pointing at Brian, who's the man of the relationship, the stronger person. And we both heard both sides of the police tapes, and there's a third one we're waiting for from the female.
Yep.
But we don't know what Gabby could have enticed throughout the relationship. I'm not saying she did anything or deserves it at all. I'm not one to say that at all. But until we get that what's it called, the reasons of her death, we don't have much information go on. And it just seems like it's easy to blame the male, and I'm not saying he's innocent at all. He could definitely be guilty, but there's also plenty of reasons to be scared to come forward, and when everybody's pointing the finger at you as well.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you calling. And I want to take a balanced approach, and we want to deal with facts. And since there's so much of this we don't actually know that's happening, it's like every little thing helps. And I heard them say, even the officials are saying, you know what, at this point, every little clue helps. So thank you, Christopher, for calling in. Appreciate it. Thank you for supporting my channel.
Yeah.
I want to shout out the people who joined our membership program today. I can't believe it. It's my first time being able to have a membership program. And so thank you guys who were able to join. And so I'm going to just shout you out real fast. Sorry if the names run together, but Carol, Tammy, Joe, Karina, Bryn, James, Neil, William, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining my channel as a member. I cannot believe it. That you guys joined as members of my channel on the first day that we had it available. It means a lot. Thank you for your support. And those of you that are sending super chats or super stickers, that is super helpful too. They call it super for a reason, because it's super helpful. And so thank you for being able to do that. We have a super chat from Julie. Hey, Tyler, any history of abnormal behavior in Brian's childhood? The things that I've read doesn't necessarily speak to his childhood, but there was an ex-girlfriend who came out with a statement saying that Brian was narcissistic and controlling in that relationship as well. And then there are several people that said, well, he had trouble sleeping at night and he heard voices at night, and, potentially he had an issue with schizophrenia emerging. And that was less about his childhood and more in his later teenagers and in early adulthood. And then the other thing was, Gabby says in this body cam footage that we're looking at right now, she says, yeah, he has anxiety really bad. And so she's pointing and alluding to, in that point, abnormal type or some level of mental health illness. So we haven't heard a report specifically about his childhood. Bill says, if it's considered and known as clandestine, then is it really off grid? That's a great question, Bill. The website says it's as clandestine as possible, and so I think that's an interesting way to say that, but it's as clandestine as possible. And so I'll bring it up. So you guys can see it on the screen, and you can read it. I was remembering it from what we read several days ago, so I'll read to you exactly what it says. It says, located within the Chattahoochee Wildlife Management Area and veiled by the Mark Trail wilderness, this 13-site developed campground is as close as it gets to a dispersed camping experience with amenities. This clandestine campground is best known for its plethora of opportunities: camping, hiking, hunting, fishing, and simply basking in the light of the natural world. Low Gap is another one of our campgrounds located only a few miles from Georgia's much-loved destinations, the Alpine village of Helen. A trip to this campground sure to bring out some good memories, so be sure to pack a camera with you. And so that's the actual way that was worded on that website, just so you know. And it's as close to as clandestine as it could possibly be. Patty, thank you for joining the call. How are you?
I'm good. I'm old. I'm surprised I'm up this late.
Where are you
I'm
from?
70. I'm from California.
Okay.
And I'm 74. Am I the oldest person watching?
It's possible, but hey, age ain't nothing but a number. And I always say this: I say, hey, check
Amen.
your pulse. If you have a
Amen.
pulse, you have a purpose. Okay.
Amen. I'm young at heart. Listen, I didn't follow this from the beginning, but can you tell me, he had use of the van.
Yep.
He drove the van back to Florida. What
Yep.
was all the hitchhiking about? Why didn't he just use the van?
Yeah, that's a great point. So we don't know why he was hitchhiking. What he told the person that picked him up whenever he was hitchhiking was, my girlfriend is in the van working on the website, and so I hitchhiked. So I came here, but he was over 20 miles away from where the van was at. And so what we think through our in-depth conversation with about 10,000 people live the other night was that whenever they left the Mary Piglet, which was the restaurant in Wyoming that they were last seen at, that Gabby was last seen at, he was heated and very upset about stuff, and people in the restaurant were even scared and freaked out about it. They go back, and that's probably when, if we could pinpoint a time, that's probably when the murder took place of Gabby. And then the thought is, he spent 2 days hiking 20 miles to this campground to take a shower and get refreshed, because whenever he hitchhikes, he's not dirty, he's completely clean, and the people that pick him up notice. He smells good. There's a lot about it. He looks good, he smells good, there's nothing strange about
Okay.
it. And so the thought is, he murdered her and then took off on a 2-day hike and left the van there, and that's that. And then went back. And so
Okay.
that's a great question, Patty.
Okay.
There's more to it that
Yeah.
we don't know. All I can tell you is what we do know.
Right. I thought he might have left the body in the van.
Yeah, when the body was maybe 100 or 200 yards from the van in the creek. So from where the van was parked. So thank you for calling in. I want to shout out. She left, by the way. I didn't kick her off, or her internet went out. Jessica Hinkle joined as a YouTube member. Thank you for joining as a YouTube member. That means a lot. My grandmother's maiden name was Hinkle, so there we go. Thank you for joining that. And then Joe, what's up, man? How are you? Thank you for calling in.
How you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing well.
I'm a little bit behind. So forgive me if you guys have already talked about this and stuff, but with the fact that they put that charge on him for the credit card, that allows them to arrest him on site,
right?
Where being a person. But my question is, okay, there's a lot of missing persons out there. And they're saying that he's only a person of interest.
Yeah.
why such a big manhunt then?
Yeah, well, they're not even saying he's a person of interest in the homicide of, you know,
Um,
they yeah, they are. They're
so
saying he's a
it
person of
seems,
interest in the missing person case, but they haven't even said, and I haven't seen anything that's connected him directly to the homicide. But instead, the next route they did was issue a warrant for his arrest based on the credit card thing, and all of the speculation from former FBI agents and attorneys, and what you're watching now is a previous stream from from WFLA Hey JB, and that's what those attorneys were talking about. They were saying they did this intentionally because they wanted that conversation to be something that when they get to court, it doesn't incriminate them like it did with OJ Simpson or others that others have accused of murder, and it lets them off the hook. So
yeah, I just, like I said, I mean, it's like they know, obviously, no, they're not telling everything. It's like they know something a lot more that this is just hypothetical. Maybe they know he's a serial killer. That's why there's such a huge manhunt for him because, like I said, there's many missing people out there that there isn't a manhunt like this out there for, and they're not going to put a manhunt on a guy for technically just $1,000 or bank fraud or whatever. So it's like they know something that they're not releasing, that there's this huge manhunt on him. That's what I'm just curious
I
about.
think it's because it's captivated America's heart. And it's like what Sandra just wrote. Sandra, thank you for the support. Good, clean blog. I can relate because I was in a toxic relationship. There's so much of this that people can relate to. And I think that's sort of why it's became sort of America's point of interest. Sheila, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. I wanted to make sure I shouted you out as well. What do you think, Joe, about the connection between Kylan and Crystal? Are all three of them connected, or how have you been able to piece that together in your frame of thinking?
I want to think so. I mean, I've had different thoughts, and like I said, I obviously am not in that field, so but I don't know if it's something that maybe Gabby knew about. He did it, and then she was just breaking. That's why, I mean, she was shaking really bad when that officer was talking to her, and maybe she was ready to just break it, or I don't know if the officer body cam was before or after the murder of the other two, but I don't know. It just seems like to me it's just too much of a coincidence that and I don't know if she was ready to go speak and she was being freaked out, and maybe that's what happened, Brian. I don't know. But I do think it is somehow related.
Well, and one of the things that you're saying too that I think could or should be talked about was like when people get pulled over in general, a lot of people get really nervous about. Sometimes I've been pulled over and I was shaking before, and then I've been pulled over and I've had no reaction. So it sort of just depends on the situation or whatever. But there's a lot to that. But just clearly they had just gotten an altercation and then found out the police had called them, and then they told her she's going to have to go to court. So I'd be freaking out too if I was her.
Yeah.
And she's like,
True.
what? She said, you mean I'm going to have to come back to Utah? But I definitely think, as many people have came down to, that her body language, there's so much more to it than anybody realized. There's so much
Exactly.
more to it. So
And the stammering with her words, and like she was trying to think about what she was going to say, like she didn't want to say the wrong thing, or she looked very, very flustered, scared, whatever. But yeah, it's a shame. I mean,
Joe, thanks for calling in.
thanks,
Appreciate you,
buddy.
man. You guys can help me out on this Friday night by hitting the like button, subscribe button, sends us out into the YouTube algorithm. And thanks for calling in. How are you doing?
Oh my goodness, is that me?
You're on here. That's you.
Can you turn off my camera?
I cannot, but you can, but you don't need to. It's so small on there anyways.
Okay, wait a second. How do I turn it off? Hold on. Okay.
I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay. Sorry. I'm like this really vain, washed up country singer who can't be seen without makeup. Okay, so here's what I think. I'm clairvoyant, so sometimes I don't charge for my anything that comes up, because I think that actually takes away your gift, and it's from God. It's a spiritual gifting, and you're only supposed to receive things and pass them on just because you're supposed to. I don't believe in people that charge for stuff like that. So I have received some thoughts and messages from Gabby, but I knew she was gone, and I knew how it happened, and I was just shaking and crying. And I've tried to tune into this Brian's energy, and honestly, it's I'm gonna sound like a wacko, but it's a very dark energy. It's scary, actually. Like it's not good. Like I don't. I'm gonna leave it to the to the people to find out where he is, because I do not want to use my energy to invite whatever is surrounding him, which I think is demonic, to be honest with you. And
Yeah, you know, that's something that I thought about whenever I was looking at, unfortunately, his books. The connection of the books he's reading, the way that he's talking, his artwork, his general stance on stuff, it felt very dark. And I've been saying it since the beginning. It felt very dark energy, as well. I appreciate you calling in. And hey, one thing I want you to do, if you wouldn't mind doing it, and I can send you the book if you need it. A friend of mine named Sean Bowles wrote a book called Translating God. And I think you would love the book. It's right up your alley. And I think it would help you get more connected to God. So thank you for calling in today.
okay, well, thank you. And just so you know, like, I am Catholic. I am very connected to God, and I'm not a believer in psychics and stuff like that. It's just a weird gift that I have. Um, and oh goodness, what was I going to say?
They use his book in some Catholic seminaries, and
Oh,
it
I know what
teaches
I was going
you.
to tell you. Um, it came to me because I get like pictures and stuff. He's had these entities around him for a long time. This has been going on. So that's why I didn't want to get like I don't want to be in this in any kind of spiritual connection with it. I think that Dog the Bounty Hunter is I mean, first of all, he's a racist, let's be honest, from what we know. But I do think he's doing it from, he said he would donate the money from the reward. So that's nice. So let's just pray for him and pray for the FBI. I think people don't give enough credit to the FBI. They are 10 to 20 steps ahead of everyone. Trust me.
I mean, that's the hope that, and you know, they're keeping such a tight lip about it that we hope that the FBI is into it. So, hey, thank you, Ann. Appreciate you. Appreciate your support on my channel.
Love your show. I love the fact that it's clean and healthy and good. And God bless you and everybody on the stream. Okay.
Thank you so much. Lyndon, thank you for the super chat. What you're doing is you're making sort of a response back to the conversation that that Patty, who called. Patty was so awesome. She's like, I'm the oldest one on here, aren't I? And she's it's getting late. And so she's in California. So what is that? 8:51 there. So proud of her for watching. But she was saying he's hiking for an hour. That's a point that I failed to mention. That's the other part of it that I thought. Like, yeah, she's hike. Yeah, it's hike for an alibi. It's definitely, I think, wasn't me. I've witnessed as I was miles away. I was at this other campground. She was there working on the website. So, Joe, thank you for the support. Thank you for the super sticker. Super appreciate it. Some people are definitely, you know, going in on the whole conversation about our last caller. What was talking about dog. The reason she's saying dog is a racist is because he was formerly a racist. He was formerly a racist. His words, not mine. And he went on TV and they played him making racial comments and he cried about it and apologized for it. And I give people the benefit of the doubt. He was racial and apologized for it. I don't believe in the cancel culture. Eventually everything's going to be canceled. Okay. I just don't believe in that cancel culture. And so I'm just going to believe at the end of the day that whenever he apologized for some of the statements that he made, that we're going to forgive him and hopefully it doesn't happen again. That's my stance on it. Okay. Personally. All right. Thank you guys for your comments. Looking for some questions on there. Thank you guys for tuning in today. And it's interesting to hear. I love getting the other perspectives. I love hearing what you guys are saying. And I love that we're able to have, this is what I think needs to happen more in America. And especially in our culture right now, we need to have people who can agree on humanity and agree on making sure that we're not going to have heated arguments about stuff. It's okay to have two people that don't have the same belief systems about something or have the same viewpoint about something to come in and have a conversation. And so all of us on here, we should be thankful in a sense that even in this horrific situation going on with Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito and what's happened, that we're able to come together and unite. And I am positive of this. There's probably 4, 5, or 6 different levels of political views on this channel. There's probably 4, 5, or 6 different religious views on this channel. But yet, in the middle of all that, together we're able to come as a nation and as a people. And it definitely needs to be more like that. And so I appreciate you guys being able to bear with us and go through that journey. And we need to be doing that in general. Not that we accept everything, but that we accept everyone. Does that make sense? We're not accepting of everything, but we accept everyone. And despite somebody having an opposite viewpoint of us, we don't think less of them as a human being, but we honor them. Larry says this question, and I lost about 100 viewers when I went on that little statement. But Larry says, what did Brian purchase in Pooler, Georgia? Larry, when you talk about the situation in Pooler, Georgia, that took place on a time frame that wouldn't allow him to be there. And so when we look at the Pooler, Georgia thing, it doesn't make sense. It's somebody who looks like Brian, but it's not actually Brian. Because I know as a fact that on August 31st, he was in Illinois. And so he didn't have enough time to drive all the way to Pooler, Georgia, which is a coastal city, and then also make it into Florida on September 1st. The timeline just doesn't add up. And so he does there. It would have been impossible for him to have been in Pooler, Georgia. And so somebody sent me that picture today, and they were like, "Hey, he's in Pooler, Georgia, or whatever," and he wasn't in Pooler, Georgia. Okay. And so a lot of people accepted as true. It was a picture that definitely looked like him, but it wasn't him. Somebody said there's been 11 helicopters. Last night somebody said there were 30 helicopters in Enterprise, Florida. So there's a lot of searching going on in Enterprise, Florida. They're using thermal imaging. So very interesting. And if you guys want to call in, the links at the top of the chat. I'd love to have you call in and go through that. And I'm going to unmute real fast on this video and see what this lawyer or attorney is saying.
Law enforcement level of looking for him, but also tap into the international resources. So hopefully they can find him there, because it's hard, as you can imagine, for Wyoming police to call Interpol or some international agency to say, hey, help us find this guy. So I think that's to the last question. I think that's the real reason why they went with the one charge federally, because it's easier for them to hopefully find him. But bottom line, they're gonna have to look to see what country's in, if he's out of country, and what is the treaty between the two countries to see how we can get him back. But if he's in a country where it's extraditable, he'll be back.
I'm gonna take this one here from Twitter, or excuse me, from YouTube.
Okay, and so that's sort of what the attorney was saying. Some of the point that I was making earlier too. I want to make sure I'm not muted. So yeah, so the point the attorneys make is the point that we were making earlier before. It's like they were very intentional about the warrant that they made for Brian in that moment. Alicia, I know you've been a supporter of my channel since we pretty much got started doing these videos. Thank you so much for that. You said in August 2020, he stated, been losing my page for too long. Like he was annoyed with her. Yeah, he always been an over supporter and blows up when it isn't reciprocated or isn't the center of the universe. Absolutely, yeah. I think it was interesting that Brian made that statement too, where he said, "Oh, it's just a little website. It's just a little blog." Always minimizing and downplaying what it was that she was working on. Doesn't that break your heart? When you see her working so hard on something, putting her time, energy, and effort into something, and then he totally minimizes it. What's the point of them starting a YouTube channel and going across the country and trying to live the van life and doing this website if they're not going to be the kind of people, that support it? Would you want to be in a relationship with somebody who's not supporting the things that you're working on? That's a big question I have. And if you're in a toxic relationship, I just want to tell you this: you only live one time, and life is too short for you to have it swallowed up by toxicity and toxic relationships and being surrounded by people who don't believe in you. Okay. And that it's not just even a dating or a relationship like that. It's a relationship of friendships. You become an average of the people that you hang out with. And if you have people who are downplaying you and minimizing you and speaking into your weaknesses more than they are your strengths, and not trying to create an opportunity for you to excel, but are instead creating opportunities for you to fail, then you need to surround yourself with better people. You need people that are going to lift you up. And the thing that hurts is Gabby and Brian both knew that they were in a toxic relationship, and yet every time they left it, they came back together. And I don't like that. I think that we need to have eyes to see what it is that we're doing in our lives, and then be very intentional about the one life that we've given. The book of James teaches us that it's just a vapor. Okay. Hey, Jen, thanks for calling in today. What are your questions, thoughts?
Hi, I was the one that sent over the timeline, and I just wanted to say you're doing an awesome job. I love what you're doing, and I sent another email over today. I don't know if you've seen it, but there
So
is.
you're the one who sent me the timeline to begin with, aren't you?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. That's been such a help. I know I sent you an email today. I said, thank you for this. It's been such a big help.
Of course. I sent another one over, and I don't know if you guys have talked about it because I missed the beginning part. But there's another channel that was trying to connect a Twitter account to Brian, and it's active. And I'll let you guys be the judge of it, but there's a lot of coincidences going on between the timeline. I think the account was opened in 2016, but it definitely covers the period of when they got pulled over, travels before that, and then current. And he's engaging with the YouTube member that's covering it. So you should check it out.
So it's the Nomadic Trek one. So let's go to twitter.com.
Yeah.
Nomadic. Yeah. I did see that email. I noticed that in the bio of it, it said hashtag not Brian. So I don't know. Like if you look at this, it says hashtag not Brian. Amateur
He's
photographer.
fighting with the person right now, the YouTube person, over. You'll see kind of recently he's covering, it's called, I think, The Interview Room. So I want to make sure he gets credit. I didn't come up with this, but he really kind of outlines the crossover of the timeline, kind of like what you have. But whoever this is definitely engaging with that, and he's a police officer in here, and he's upset that he's posting on his channel with this. Anyways, very interesting. And again, I'll let you guys be the judge, and maybe someone out there has opinions on it. I just thought it was a lot of coincidences.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I got this Nomadic Trek tweet up. It says Aloha Brian Laundrie dog. I thought that this is separate than what you're talking about, but I always found that to be, dog said that wasn't him who did that, but I found it an interesting thing that somebody would would send that out. So Jen, thank you so much for calling in.
Of course, take care.
Would send that out. So Jen. Okay, we got a super chat. It says there's not enough entry. Let me put it on the screen. Bill says there's not enough info about the Laundrie family and total history, people that know them or grew up around them, school, etc. We did, Bill, were you on here the other night? We had somebody call in who said that they were family friends of the Laundries from years ago in Long Island. And I thought that was a really interesting. I'm like, tell me everything you can about them. There hasn't been very many family friends stick up for the Laundries. It's like everybody's disassociating with them. And you saw on Brian's Instagram page, people started blocking him like crazy. And we know that because he had 100 followers, or he was following 100 people or whatever. And it was down to like 40. I don't know where it's at now, but it started to go down like crazy, an incredible amount. So definitely very interesting. So this person saying, hey, there, Nomadic Trek is rumored to be Brian. That's what Jen was saying on the call. Like he's saying, keeping a track of what's going on Twitter and saying like, oh no, I'm not. Sipple NV, thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing as a moderator. It really means a lot. I appreciate you so much. I see you on there all the time making good comments and statements. Rona says, what happened with the 911 call that was meant to have been made by Gabby during the Moab incident? I didn't hear a 911 call that had been made by Gabby during the Moab incident. The 911 call was made by a guy named Chris. Now, if there was a second 911 call that maybe Gabby made, I don't know. But whenever they came and talked to her during the Moab incident, she was the one that she was saying that she did it. So very interesting. Grizzled said Brian's dad looks miserable. Yeah, definitely doesn't look like a very happy guy. Why have none of Brian or Gabby's friends spoke up? Well, I guess Rose spoke up, and that's brought some speculation in. Whenever people were doing some research about it, it sort of felt like Brian doesn't have any friends at all to speak up on his behalf, and that's a very interesting thing. Like, it's a very interesting thing to think you have no friends to speak up on your behalf. Pretty much everybody that's watching this call, like, if something went wrong with you, if you were innocent or guilty, you have people standing up for you. I have people in my life that stand up for me. So you definitely have people standing up for you. Lynn says there's 30 choppers flying at night near Enterprise, Georgia. It's the U.S. Army doing training, not related to the search. They fly every night for training. So they did come out with a statement the other night, too, whenever they were searching around Marco Island, when they were searching around Fort DeSoto Park. And they said, we're just doing it for training. It's possible that sometimes training might just be training, but you don't know. And so, Lynn, I agree with you. And I've driven a lot of times from where I live to Nashville, Tennessee, and you go through Clarksville, Tennessee, in this area at the where Tennessee and Kentucky come together, and there's a lot of air traffic there where it's people training at the base there. And so there's a lot of training that happens at bases. But if it happens to be in close proximity as well, where there's a lot of training happening, they might just say, hey, let's say it's training, and then let's actually go do some searching. Zoriana says, what I didn't like is when the cops asked Brian if she can drive his van, even though it was hers. They were isolating while breaking her down. I know, it's heartbreaking. Somebody made a comment the other night, like, well, it was bro club or whatever. And it, unfortunately, I don't mean to sound mean about this, but unfortunately, I felt like many of the police officers there were relating to Brian more than they were trying to figure out what was happening with Gabby. And they didn't have a crystal ball, and they can't, it's not like they can go back and redo what happened, but Brian was playing them. Kim says cops fell for his story. It definitely felt like, here's the palm of the hand, and then Brian's like twisting and turning them, and then it ends up becoming a thing. And it's so unfortunate. But we had Tina on here last night, and we actually had her call in multiple times because she was a police officer, and she sort of gave her input on it. And she said, you know what, guys, one thing that we're not understanding, she sent a super chat saying it too. She said, what we're not understanding is, like, even if the police had done something, they would have only been separated for a day or 2 days or whatever, and it doesn't change the end outcome likely. Unless they would have done a no contact order in which the police officers then held in regard for months until they came back for court, then and Brian would have just went the next day and dropped it. So even if they had done more, it likely wouldn't have changed the outcome. A lot of people were saying that Brian was doing something that's premeditated based on the books that he was reading, based on some of the other stuff that he was doing. So if it happened to be a case of a premeditation, then we could say, well, because it was premeditated, definitely doesn't matter what the cops would have done. It would have ended up happening anyways. Ken says, not the female park ranger she connected with. The female park ranger came out and made a statement and said, I told her she was in a difficult relationship and she needed to get out of it. Okay. Alicia, thank you for calling in, and I see you on the chats. Thank you for supporting my channel. It really means a lot.
Hey guys, how's it going? I do love what you're doing, Tyler. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Awesome. But yeah, I do feel like it was premeditated in a way, and I do feel like it was, completely about money. Like, it was about money. He was, jealous of her, and just poor girl. My heart goes out for the family, and I've been obsessed with this case, following you for hours at a time, and my husband has even started following. So we're like, go Tyler, let's get to the bottom of this. So
there's
I
something
definitely
about
hope
this
we can
case
help.
there's something about this case that's driving everybody together, and I like the unity part of it, but I actually think we're making a difference too. The more that we're highlighting this, the more people that we can get engaged on it, the more emails that I get from you guys to press@tylerfeller.com, the better we're able to put some clues together and I have sort of the master timeline going on, and I know Gavis and Evan and the people that are helping me have their thoughts and timelines going on. And when we put them together, it's like the things that's weak in one is strong in the other, things that's strong in one is weak in the other. It sort of comes together in this collision that I think is super helpful. And all the little things end up hopefully leading to us finding Brian.
Exactly. And I do think also, like, if the police were to at least have asked if, there was any weapons in the car or anything like that, at least that would kill some of our curiosity of the other murders, I just think that would have been very helpful. And I do want to see the female's dash cam, because I'm like, the other officers saying he feared for the worst. He definitely thought, what he thought, and he probably felt that dark energy. And I just feel like, they should have all went with their gut feelings, but that other cop showed up and he kind of threw everything off course. But thank you for having me.
That's what people are saying in the comments. Like, he should have trusted his gut. And I'm glad. It sounds like you were listening to my call yesterday. I'm like, I want it because she's a federal officer. I doubt they'll release that. Thank you, Alicia, for calling in. But because she's a federal officer, I doubt that they'll release that. But I wish that we could see it. Man, there's a lot going on. And Inspector Gadget, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Good.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the whole thing with Gabby's like guy friend in Northport, I think that needs to be explored a little more with the timelines, with Brian going back to Northport and seeing what kind of connection may be there between Gabby and that guy, because apparently they were supposed to meet up at some point after Teton, and I just wanted to share that.
Well, appreciate your call and appreciate your insight. Do you think the family's involved?
Based on today, when I reviewed the video of the sister, you can see her facial expressions. There's definitely something going on there.
Very interesting. So, well, hey, thank you for calling in. So, Misty says this caller is expressing what I was thinking. It was premeditated without a doubt. I totally agree. This person says, I think all the officers did a great job, but I would not have left Gabby in an emotional state. That's the part that I struggle with. Like, why would we leave a 22-year-old girl in an emotional state to go sleep in a camper van in a state all by herself? Like, I have such a hard time with this. Like, there's nothing in my mind that could rationalize me leaving this poor girl all by herself. And I guess they were trying to follow the letter of the law, but shoot, it's hard for me to be in that situation, because whenever I look at it, I want to deep dive into it, and I want to deep dive into it in a way that is helping bring light. I want to put on the screen. Let's watch that interview of Brian's sister where she breaks her silence on the Gabby Petito case.
Tonight, the interview that is raising questions and raising eyebrows in the case of a missing young woman from Long Island. Gabby Petito, on a cross-country trip with her boyfriend, disappeared last month. The fiancé and his parents are clamming up, but his sister is speaking to cops and the FBI and speaking out in an interview with ABC News. Long Island reporter Kristen Thorne live in the Suffolk County hamlet of East Islip with the story and details. Kristen.
Bill, the last time we were able to speak on camera with Brian Laundrie's attorney here in East Islip was 2 days ago. We have not been able to speak with him since. Police say at this point they do not believe that there is any criminality involved in Gabby Petito's disappearance. And Cassie Laundrie, who we spoke exclusively with here at ABC, says she has told police everything she knows. In an exclusive interview with ABC, Cassie Laundrie says she hasn't spoken to her brother since he returned to their parents' home in Florida.
I haven't been able to talk to him. I wish I could talk to him.
Laundrie says she's told police everything she knows about her brother, Brian Laundrie, and his fiancée, Gabby Petito, and their cross-country road trip.
I've cooperated every way that I can. I wish I had information or I would give more. This is all I have is I gave to the police.
Petito's father says he isn't sure Cassie Laundrie is being fully transparent, given the fact that her parents and her brother haven't said one word to police.
I'm hoping that the pleas and the begging and the community and the, entire damn planet knock some sense into her where she's like, I gotta speak.
Police in Northport, Florida, where the Suffolk County natives had been living with Laundrie's parents, are continuing to put pressure on the Laundrie family today by doing more media appearances. But the family doesn't seem to be budging. Neither does Brian Laundrie, who is in a known location to investigators in Florida. Police say they're still processing whatever they found in the couple's camper van. Laundrie and the van were in Florida for more than a week before anyone even knew Petito was missing.
We've been able to definitely get some material out of that van. We are certainly not at the point of revealing some of that was.
Cassie Laundrie told ABC it was not uncommon for her brother and Petito to fight. Yesterday, police in Utah released body cam video of their response to a 911 call for an argument between the two near Arches National Park in Moab.
What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm just crying. We've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
Laundrie had scratches all over his upper body. Petito was determined to be the primary aggressor. Cassie Laundrie says in her mind, none of that matters.
Me and my family want Gabby to be found safe. She's like a sister, and my children love her. And all I want is for her to come home safe and sound, and this to be just a big misunderstanding.
Petito is believed to be missing in Wyoming.
So that's I mean, I wish they would release the full entire interview of the conversation with her. And maybe they do that sometimes with interviews. They release it, but maybe we put some pressure on ABC in some way where they'll release the full interview, because they probably sat there and interviewed her for 10, 20 minutes of footage. And I would like to know as much of it as we could possibly hear. I agree with what Unwind Lounge is saying. Why didn't they go looking for Gabby? Gabby was missing. Well, we hope she comes home. We hope they find her. We love her. My kids love her. And she posted a picture of all the postcards that Gabby had sent her son while they're on a trip, and they were talking about all the stuff that they were doing, right? It's like, I said this last night. If I know somebody who's missing in my family or even in my church family, I'm dropping everything again. I'm going on a search party. I'm getting flashlights and I'm getting batteries, and I'm getting boots that I can walk in any kind of weather. I'm just going to go out and do it. Like, that's just the way I'm going to be. Okay. So I don't understand how that could be a situation where they're like, well, why didn't they look for Gabby? Thanks, Joe, for the super chat. What do you think's in store for Brian's parents after they find him? Their lives, business, friends have to be over after this. So it's a great question. I would say if they're living in the state of Florida and it's not a different rule federally, then and Brian's guilty, let's go down that road. If Brian's guilty, then they can't be charged as being an accessory to the crime. And I think that the government and the police officers and the public are going to try to get them charged on something. So there's that. There's going to be a push to get the parents charged for something. If they're not charged with something, their lives are never going to be the same. They might have to move and be incognito somewhere else. Their business, I don't know, since it's a business to business, B2B type business, meaning they sell commercial juicers to other places. I don't know if it will really impact them, because it's not like people know which places are using what juicers. And I don't know if they have many friends. Like the statement's been said, we don't know how many they have friends. If it comes out that, like, if it's proven that Brian's innocent, which is very, very unlikely, but if there's at all a chance that Brian's proven innocent and they prove it without a shadow of a doubt, and the public understands it in a way that's like, okay, well, I don't know what those situations would be, but if that all happens, then it's going to be very interesting. And so that's a great comment, Joe. Thank you for leaving that comment. I appreciate it. That night could have been a huge turning point. Yeah, totally agree with that. I wonder if they have an insurance policy out on Gabby. I doubt it. I don't know anybody that does that for somebody who's not yet in the family, or even if you could possibly do it, but maybe. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. Somebody's saying, why do they need to talk to Brian to determine if he's guilty? I don't see if talking to him will help unless he admits it, which he won't. Yeah, that's the situation. I mean, Chris Watts admitted it. Nobody thought that he would, but he ended up admitting it. And so there's a possibility that he would end up admitting it. But right now, he's guilty of using her debit card, which is a federal crime in itself. So if nothing else, he's going to be in trouble over that because she wasn't alive and he was using her debit card and PIN number. Okay. And then, he might admit it because a plea deal would mean they might make some sort of plea deal with him where he doesn't get life or he doesn't get, execution. So there's circumstances where he may come out if he is guilty and admit to it, or he could end up going to court, and sometimes we know what happens in court. Innocent people don't run, Kim says. I mean, that's the general thought. People are saying that that's the general thought and consensus behind all of this. Innocent people shouldn't be running. Definitely interesting. Zorix is saying, how could he deny it with everything that's happened? His van being close, him going into hiding, him not reporting anything, coming back. That's totally plausible. Guys, everyone look who it is. It's Gavis. Gavis, earlier you were doing a Twitch stream and everyone was making these comments like Gavis and Tyler are in a big fight. I'm like, we're not in a big fight. Like I said, he wanted 6 because like what happened was I put up a smaller timeline, literally just a bullet point timeline, like each day, one tiny bullet point for the day. And then because I wanted to get through it fast and I put some other information in there. And then people were like, oh, he's going over the timeline without Gavis. Gavis is upset. I'm like, no, Gavis and I are not upset at each other. He just has a 16-hour timeline, and I don't want to be on stream for 16 hours. So anyways, that's what happened earlier. Thank you for popping on so that we can prove to people we're not in a fight.
Yeah, no worries, brother.
So there's been lots of questions tonight about the sister, and I don't know, somehow
I finally figured it all out. I have the entire timeline. Seeing that interview with Sue today filled in the gaps that I needed to prove that it is absolutely 99% Brian.
Okay. Yeah, because the
kills
last
the
time
girls.
you're like, I will never say anything's 100%.
And actually, you have a much bigger crowd than I had over on my little Twitch channel. Like I had people all day today helping me grind, and we had to grind so hard. Again, you guys know that I don't do anything in between. I go full in, and it fits everything. But it's sensitive. This is potentially not the place to talk and finish off the rest of it. If that, it's just not the right. But yeah, I've got everything figured out. I know when Brian left. Brian is not in the United States. He left on the 14th. Yeah, his sister did cover for him. She covered it for him on the 1st. Brian went into her house. The very first place he stopped was her house. And it was even probably her husband that drove the Mustang to the park after Brian Enton went for probably a dinner break. They purposely channeled that. So I don't know what's worse, the lawyers or the Laundries. They're pretty close right now at this point, and the Laundries disgust me right now. So you can see just how mad I am.
Thank you for keeping it clean, and I appreciate how you. I like people don't understand how much I appreciate how much restraint I know you're having, and then how much you're respecting the channel.
I'm actually so relieved now, Tyler, for all of the loose ends to finally come together.
Like a cohesiveness of it.
It is, and honestly, I need you to get it out there. The last piece of the puzzle that we need to do is we need to fix Jean Paul.
Can you? I do want. I think maybe if I got in touch with him, that he would have a phone call or conversation with me.
This is easy. We need Jean Paul on the morning of the 14th, 9:15 to 11 o'clock. We need every single wedding party guest that was looking towards where Kylan and Crystal were found. We need their media. We need pictures. We need film. Somebody saw a white van. We don't have tracks at the scene because they weren't recovered for another 18th.
Yeah, it was 5 days, and
But
then
it was
that's
raining. It was
yeah.
raining and pouring. So the only tracks into that site were Sue's.
And it was hailing too. So on top of all that, all the
The
any
only
tracks that were
evidence
gone.
there at the scene. Yeah. So everything fits. Everything fits. And
Okay.
Gabby, and importantly, Gabby wasn't there.
Okay, that's good. Let me bring up these super chats, and I have a question I want to ask you. Charlene says, "Does anyone know where iWatch is? I seen a video of a woman talking about it. According to her, it would tell the time of death and date." So I think, yeah, Gavis is pretty in depth on that. He knows the time.
So the key to this one was the interview with Sue. So
Sue-
Sue, when she
Sue-
walked in,
What's her middle name? Ellen Sue.
I'd have to go to the stuff, but when she walked up to the Kia, remember the van isn't parked here. It's the Kia. They used a tent. I was trying to hunt for a van.
Oh.
That little Kia was backed right almost up to the edge of the river. So when Sue went over there, she saw a little pet cage with a bunny in it, or a couple bunnies. And she said, they're filthy. They were absolutely filthy. So that narrowed my timeline down. And I know it had to be the morning of the 14th. And what makes sense is Brian dropped Gabby somewhere. And then Brian went to go kill the girls with the excuse, I need to get water.
Yeah.
It fits perfect.
By the way,
it takes 1 hour. It takes 1 hour to get from the Moonflower to the site where they were camped.
Which was outside of Whispering Oaks, where that wedding party was. In case people are wondering why you were mentioning that.
Exactly.
Freebird is wondering, why were there 0 photos taken of the injuries of Gabby? She's talking about whenever the police were there, they classify him as the victim, and as she was visibly traumatized, and he's laughing a few feet away. I know that part is sickening.
Can we avoid that? Because it's just, there's so many things that could have gone right and so many things that ended up going wrong. And it's unfair for everybody that's involved in that situation. And we still have 2 more cameras to come out, which could show us the viewpoint of the female officer and what she saw. So
I made the statement earlier that the female officer is a federal agent because it's National Park Service, and this FBI has been locked tight on everything. I would not be surprised if they don't release her body cam footage.
And this guy here, he also has body cam as well. So we need 2 more cameras, and yeah.
So, okay.
Let's avoid this. I don't want to talk about this.
Winesty, thank you for the super sticker. It means a lot. I do have a question. It's like, it's not necessarily about the logistics of that particular behavior of the police officers, but it's a question that's interesting to me. Was it the Moab City Police or the Grand County Sheriff's Department, or a mixture of both?
I don't know. It was Eric and Daniel. I don't know what they were a part of, but Eric is the bearded guy and Daniel's the younger guy.
Eric's on FMLA, which is Family Medical Leave Act, which is not out because of this situation. Like, that's a government law in America. If you work for the government or your organization has so many employees, you have to follow what's called the FMLA. And so there's certain stipulations around it, and one of them is not, what happened. So
yeah, no, I think I'm finished. I sent the full timeline to Dog the Bounty Hunter. I sent it to Brian Enton, and yeah, let's just catch this guy. I'm so glad I'm done with this.
Can you send it to me for my review? Like, would you mind doing that?
Sure.
Lisa says, I would like to think they gave her the van to give her the opportunity to leave.
It wouldn't have mattered, honestly, and that's why I think this is a moot point. If you actually understand the situation and you dive into Brian's head,
yeah,
whether they separate these guys, throw them in jail, Brian's ultimate plan was to kill 3 women, period.
Yeah,
it's that easy.
I was saying that tonight. It's like, I think, and Tina called in and made that statement last night. She's like, it's literally only one night if they are separated. And what she's saying was like, maybe Gabby had it in her mind something bad was going to happen, she could get away. But even at that, it's like,
by my timeline, Gabby Gabby wouldn't have known. So no.
So Melanie's saying he snapped. So let me ask you this: like, if he's out of the country, did you have intel or insight as you're studying this? Is there a specific country, or are you thinking, like, what are
Yes.
your thoughts?
So remember they were talking about going to that World Organic Farming, the WUPA or whatever the hell that was.
Yeah.
And they were going to do that at the end of their trip after Halloween.
Right.
And work doing that. So here's my thoughts. The Laundries had already talked to the lawyers. They knew what was coming. So Brian planted the car. I think the parents actually threw hamburger or something in that pond in front of the car to alert the cadaver dogs. And that was their alibi. And it was on the 14th that whatever you want to call this kid, Brian, that's when he got on a plane. And I believe that he went to Costa Rica, San Jose. There's a bazillion. If you look on that WOP site, there's 14 hosts right now that will take you. Probably no questions asked. You can go live on an organic farm. That's Brian's utopia.
Wow.
So anything that they're looking for in the States, I think, is a waste of money. And that's why I gave it to Dog, because Dog is putting up his own money. He's working his butt off. And unfortunately, they got sidewalled by Cassie. Cassie lied twice. She saw him on the 1st, and she camped with him on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. I was going to tell you this earlier. Dog's team emailed me. I don't know if you saw my tweet I sent earlier today. Dog's team emailed me today as soon as they found that out. And I didn't to me, I was like, duh. But, we have a caller. Paul, I'm going to add you to the stream in just a second. We have a super chat from Andrina who's saying Gabby also had 2 visible injuries that were mentioned on the body cam footage. I think that's what the other person was talking about. How come it wasn't documented? I hope that's listed on the police report. It's not. I actually have the police report, and I read through the police report, and it does not mention this at all. It's not. That part. It's sad. Paul, thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts? What are your questions?
Oh, hi. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Hi, from Australia, Melbourne. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you for calling in. You're our second Australian tonight.
Good, thank you. It's a great show. I just had a thought. When he came back from hitchhiking, if Gabby wasn't there, why didn't he go around the campsite and say, oh, where's my girlfriend? Where's my fiance?
Well, where he was hitchhiking at was like 20 miles away from where his girlfriend was camping at and working on their website.
So when he came back to the camp to get the van.
Yeah, so whenever he hitchhiked, it was a lady who was on her way to church, and he said, "Can you bring me back to? It's like 20 miles away to where my girlfriend's at in our camper working on her website."
Yeah. Right, and so had she gone missing when he came back to the van? Had she gone missing by then?
She was killed the night of the 27th or early in the morning on the 28th.
Right. Okay. Thanks. It was just a thought because you'd think he would go around saying, oh, "My girlfriend's missing. Where is she? Help me! No,
that's why he jumped out of the car when Norma Jean drove him back. He didn't want to get anywhere near the site in case there was police already there, and he could duck into the bush and run.
Oh, okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Great
Paul.
show, by the way. Enjoy it really a lot.
Appreciate you. Gavaz, how did he get on the flight to Australia if they're not able to track it?
His mother has a whole bunch of different names. You'll see even on the website Dirt, it's Gabby and Brian V. And his mother Roberta also uses that V and not Laundrie. So, and also at this time, he wasn't under a warrant. The warrant didn't come out until the 22nd. So when they started to feel the heat come, they were like, okay, we better make an alibi. And I think this was all why the lawyers coaxed and they taught them exactly what to do. When she bought the phone on the 4th, I think they got too good of a phone. So that's why they went back on the 14th. They had to get a crappy one.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep. It all fits. I'm telling you guys, I'm done now. I literally have put everything into it. It's over for me. I'm out.
Well, not until we're able to. We need to figure out how we can do it in less than 16 hours. But if there, I think when Friday nights are not a good night because the stream is obviously smaller. We had 20,000 on the other night whenever Kim was on here with us. So we need to do one of the nights that there's more traffic, and then maybe not spend 16 hours on it. But what do you think about the Robert Lowry thing? Have you been studying that?
Yes, I have, and that's why I've just kind of given up. I think Robert Lowry, he's too far away on that Ranger or Forestry Road, and I've already put so much effort into this. I think that he just got, unfortunately, a bear. Yeah, bear got him.
That's what I was saying. I was like, guys, I think a bear got him, and then people were like, no, 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 no. So somebody's saying the Trinity stuff is ridiculous.
No,
And
no, it's not. And when you see the autopsy reports, and this is why I can mention this part of it. If you watch the interview with Sue today, who was the girl that found Kylan and Crystal, the officer, after he finds Crystal, he does, in Sue's description, he puts his hand up and his top lip is quivering and he cannot talk.
Wow.
And so if you can imagine what would make a senior police officer do that,
yep,
you can imagine what happened to Kaylin, and then you can also understand what happened to Gabby and why Gabby. That's enough said there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people could use their imagination. Chris, thank you for supporting the channel. It means a lot. It really means a lot that you're supporting that. And what we're trying to do here is find justice for Gabby.
The camping reservations were canceled, and then they were resumed on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. I can answer every question as it comes up. I could probably keep up with chat. You guys can go as fast as you want.
Well, I want to put them on the screen that way because what happens on the replay, Gavis, and we have about 1.5 times the amount of views on the replay. So like this video will probably have 90,000 or 80,000 views when we're done, and then it'll end up with 160 or 200,000. And what I want to be able to do is put it on the screen that way people who watch the replay and are not seeing the chat are able to pay attention to it as well. So
sure.
Xerix is saying, would he require a fake passport? No,
he wasn't charged with anything yet.
He was not on a no-fly.
He wasn't charged with anything until the 22nd.
Yeah. And not only that, too, I heard an FBI agent say, like, he could have easily purchased a fake passport or someone else's passport that was dead or whatever else.
He didn't have to. These lawyers coached the Laundries perfectly to a T.
I mean, I'm, and that goes back to my theory, like that I've been saying too about the lawyer. It's like I think they had a long-standing relationship with this lawyer because if you think about it, he was from New York and he's flying in to Florida. Like, why would you not hire an attorney who's down the road you have easier communication with? That part doesn't make any sense to me. Winesty says, were all of these women found in creek beds coincidence?
Once you dive into Brian's mind and understand him, I think the way that I do right now, not really. I want to say no. I think that doesn't really matter that much. It was opportunity, right? So first with Gabby, he had to get her across that river and set up the tent so that he didn't have to carry her, one. Two, that she would be unsuspecting. The Kylan and Crystal murder was because he was so angry that he got pulled over by the cops, went back looking for them, gave the excuse that he was going to go for water to Gab's. That's why I believe literally almost 100% that Gabby wasn't there. Had his 1 hour window to go to their campsite, get them, and then get out. And those campsites out there, you guys got to remember that this is the van life, so just about any campsite can be pretty much hosted on the dirt, and the van lifers know where it is and they don't have to pay any money. So that could have been where he got the location from, or he could have got the location from them on the morning of the 12th.
People keep asking about the storage unit. Nobody's surveilling. No media is surveilling the storage unit. I don't know if they've gone through it or not. And we don't even know if the storage unit's the shed out back, which they did go through, or if the storage unit's an actual storage unit.
Yeah. It's irrelevant. The only thing that's relevant is that he got on a plane on the 17th and came back and returned on the 23rd.
People are wanting to do the 16-hour thing. Does it really take 16 hours?
I think it would, because we have to go through all of his Pinterests. We have to go through everything.
Could we record it in 2-hour segments and drip it over Could we sit down and record it all at one time and then drip it out over 8 days?
Honestly, I think I'm drained at this point. I think I've done everything I need to do. The next thing is you got to catch him. So stop wasting your time in the United States and get over to Costa Rica and Belize and all those places on that Whoop thing or whatever. You'll find them. I promise you, you will find them.
What do you think about Dog the Bounty Hunter sent me an email today that said that they have a police officer who's basically undercover with them now on Dog's team. Like they have an undercover agent with Dog's team dressed in normal clothing.
Why? Sorry, but why?
That's what
I just don't why do that.
Well, I think it's because they're trusting Dog's intel, and some of the tips that he has is my theory behind it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I everything. That's why I sent Dog my timeline so that I can help these guys out. I mean, I want to also help out Sean Paul. I mean, So yeah, I really want everyone to go back to their footage if they were at that wedding. Go through that footage from 9:15 to noon, and you'll see a white van. I promise you.
Well, I think it's important I think it helps us if we have, the be able to go through some of the timeline, what you're saying, because it helps people understand more of what's going on. And it allows them to wrap their brains around what's happening with the situation with Brian. Somebody's saying, what wedding? There was a wedding at this place. Was it called Whispering Oaks?
Yeah, there's a Whispering Oaks, and the wedding was between... Oh, I had some people sleuthing for me today.
You said 9:15 to 11 earlier, but...
Yeah, I do have 9:15 to 11, but I want to be able to open that window up just a little bit in case, I think I've narrowed that down pretty tight. He could have got lost, missed the turn. I think if you tighten it up, I don't know how many pictures you take on your media or whatever, but it should be a pretty quick and easy thing to do rather than fingerprinting and DNA everybody that was at that wedding.
I've been the preacher of like 100 weddings. I've never done one that early.
Well, there was a rehearsal. So the people at the rehearsal, I think, there's a big window that overlooks right down to where they were camped. And what Brian would have done is he would have tucked in behind that one tree if you look at the aerial photograph.
Okay. They were also camping there. The wedding party had camping, not tent camping. It's actual lodges or cabins, and they had rented out for 100 guests were staying in these cabins.
Right. So so the timeline is this: the 13th, the night of the 13th, they left town in their little Kia. So they probably got back here at about midnight, and they were fine. The rabbit is set up in the cage. Everything is good. They go to bed, sleeping in the tent, and then they're not found until the 18th. That's a huge timeline to try to fill in. Trust me, this is hard. And that would have been the morning that Brian could have left Gabby at the Moonflower or anywhere at 8 o'clock roughly and moved over there. Got him.
The question on the screen's asking for a brief overview of what the Trinity's theory is, or the trifecta in relationship to these situations that are happening.
If you go to Brian's Pinterest, you can see everything that he liked and that he thought was incredible. And you'll see a lot of things that are three. There's three mermaids, there's three heads, there's the Zoidberg, the Trinity, the Krusty the Clown. There's a lot of really weird stuff in there, and that's where I get the Trinity from.
And I want to say this. Chuck Palahniuk, which was Brian and Gabby's favorite author, spoke often about building stories based on three characters, archetypes of three characters: a rebel, a follower, or a witness, or a bystander, a martyr. He spoke often about building books and building stories and building lines around three people. And so that's sort of the thinking behind it. And when you look at the artwork of what Brian was doing, then it was a trilogy situation that was happening often.
Yeah, the interview with Sue today was just absolutely awesome. It filled in the gaps that I needed.
This is a government psychological operation. The feds could arrest January 6 patriots, but they can't find Brian. It's a distraction from vaccine passports in the failed administration. Appreciate your viewpoint, Mead. I know there's a lot there's a lot to that to sort of unpack. And just so you guys know, Gavis is from Canada, so he's not involved on anything with January 6th or anything with vaccine passports or anything to do with this administration. He's completely detached from it. From my perspective, I don't know how Gabby and Brian are connected to what's happening in the government. I do think as you research more and more of what happens in the government and with politicians, that it's a lot grimier than anybody could imagine behind the behind the scenes. And so I don't know if we should be trusting much of what we see. That's why I trust the Holy Spirit personally. I'm just saying, for me, we're in a situation where everything's fake news. And until we know facts, that's all we can depend on. And for me, I have a hard time finding out facts. So what I do is I trust the Holy Spirit and listen to that. And that involves every area of my life, every single area of my life. Okay. A lot of people are saying, well, what you guys are talking about is fake news, or you guys are spreading misinformation, or there's no facts. I want to say this, like, Gavis, nothing that you have in your timeline isn't rooted in a source, right?
Absolutely. You have to be anchored to something.
Right. But initially you were saying, I think this happened. There's some speculation about this. This is probably what happened. But now you've went through, you found witnesses for what you're talking about. You're piecing together stories. Like, so just so people know, like, he's being a little vague on some of this, but he spent now what I know of maybe 60 hours in depth of research of this. So I'm just so you guys know, like, did you write down the sources for all this? Because the document that you sent me, the other timeline that you sent me, literally had a link for every single thing that you said. This is where I got this from. This is like where I got
and now the new one, or the final one, it's got pictures of every Pinterest. It's got everything. It's cleaned up a lot, and it fits in all the different holes. And the last hole that I needed to fill was the interview with Sue today. It gave me
that additional insight.
You couldn't have handed me a video camera and given me a better description there. It's great.
The quivering lip of the police officer.
And when he got out, he pointed to his ribs. So
Terry says it's like putting a puzzle together.
It is. It is, and now I'm finally done. So I'm relieved. I went in the rabbit hole, and I'm finally out of it.
In the rabbit hole, out of the rabbit hole, there are people that are sending in questions. I want to put the link to. I'm going to put a link into the comments. That way, anybody that wants to hop on can hop on it. If you hop on, please be respectful. Don't use foul language. Have YouTube muted. Okay. Just so you know, CJ saying, who's Sue? Sue is the one who discovered the bodies of Kylan and Crystal. That's who Sue is. And so, how long is the interview of Sue's interview?
It's quite long. I mean, you could probably go halfway through and start it.
Sue Bird is your name, right?
What's that?
Sue Bird. Who'd she do the interview with?
Let me just check. Her name is Cindy Sue Hunter.
Where did she do the interview? Was it on a YouTube channel?
It was a guy with a purple back screen. I don't know who that was.
Oh, Pascal show.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that guy. I saw his channel today. Like it was kind of popping off. So the interview with Sue was probably the reason why.
Yeah.
So where does she start talking in here? Do you know?
Well, I mean,
is that her?
I can kind of paraphrase everything. So she goes in. She's not equipped to be a search party. She got water, tools. She was looking for an accident. Very little idea where to look. She went to Pack Creek area. Geyser Pass. Phone has never worked in those mountains. January 2016, and now it works. She's talking to Sean Paul. She goes to the Sand Flats Road. She's still talking to Sean. Lake Awa.
I think I got it. I think I had it up on screen. Let me play just a piece of it and see what.
Yeah.
Go back. I know that I don't know how many times you've told this story and all that, but can we go back to the very beginning? Because I understand before you went hunting for Kylan and Crystal, you had already known Kylan and her father Sean Paul, correct?
Correct. They were some of the first customers I had at my little art craft store that I opened here in Moab. And Sean Paul came in and asked me if I would carry his artwork on a commission basis. And I said, of course, I would love to. And so he was the first artist work that I commissioned in my little store.
Oh, wow. And your store was called what again?
Imagination Station Arts and Craft Supplies at that time. Eventually it became Imagination Station Art, Craft, and Party Supplies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so you live in the Moab area, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So how did you catch wind on this? Like, tell us a little bit of the origin. Like what inspired you to start looking?
I received, or I didn't receive it. I read a Facebook post from Sean Paul begging the community to be his eyes and ears, boots on the ground. His daughters were missing. They weren't responding. There were no calls, no shows. The police had searched for them with no success. And he felt that the police might have missed something. So during that day, Tuesday the 17th, I argued with myself all day long about how I could possibly find them, because I was being told basically in my gut that I had to go. I didn't really know what that was going to look like or how I could possibly find them in the vast mountain range of the LaSalle's. The loop road alone is 60 miles long. It is a huge area.
That sounds massive, especially if did you walk this whole thing?
So I drove to different areas and would walk around as much as I could. And then I would get in my car and I was stopping and looking over the edge of cliffs. I was looking in ravines. I was looking anywhere it looked like, the brush had been disturbed. Yeah, I spent almost 5 hours before I found the girls.
Wow. That's unbelievable. So, okay. So you spent 5 hours searching, walking around. Now, but before we go into that, before you got inspired,
So basically she's saying Sean Paul came in and said, hey, can you help with the search or whatever? So she goes on to help with the search. Am I hearing that correctly? Like she was requested by the dad to join the search?
Yeah, her dad asked everybody to get the boots on the ground.
So I want to get. I don't want to. I'm going to fast forward a bit into this.
It's basically
All
just her
over.
discovery of the body of Kylan.
I wanted to hear about the police officer part. Is that towards the end?
Yeah, it's probably 3/4.
Okay.
Naked. You didn't see her clothes just kind of.
No, she looked strange to me. I don't know how to describe it. Her limbs were at odd angles. They appeared to be at odd angles to me for somebody who was laying in a creek, that was running. Her limbs just seemed odd. They were kind of bent. I don't know how to describe that really. And I couldn't see her face. So I don't know if her face something was laying on her face, or again, if she was face down. I just don't know. I don't know. And once I confirmed that it was a body, by then Sean Paul is screaming at me to get in my car. And so I ran and got in my car and locked the doors and the windows. And
Totally understandable. Totally understandable. Was there anything else in the area that just kind of sparked as odd to you?
Well, there was like clothes of some type underneath the tree, between the tree and the tent. There were things just didn't look right. The tent door was open, but it wasn't like open like you would open your tent normally. It was askew. Everything was kind of askew. I saw a cell phone in the tent leaning up against something. Things just didn't look right. It obviously didn't look right. Nothing looked right. I saw like big gallon baggies over in a stand of trees off to the right of the car. And I saw something else in the water, but I don't know what it was. I didn't, again, Sean was screaming at me to get in my car. So I ran and got in my car.
No, I totally understand that. And I'll be honest, I commend you for.
Just as she's talking, I can relate to the feeling that she's having, because whenever I don't know if anybody's ever done this, but one time I was driving down the road and I looked over in a field and I saw a car upside down, and this was like a year ago. I stopped and I thought, I'm going to go, this car shouldn't be laying down until somebody's got an accident. I'm going to go pray for this person. And when I went to go pray for this person, and like literally I was trying to get in this car that was smashed upside down, I went to go pray for this person. The person had already passed away. And I mean, I waited until the police got there, and then I looked over and realized she went flying off the road and hit a telephone pole. And it's an image that hasn't left my mind. It's stuck in my mind. Okay. And it is like, you don't know what to do. I drove home the rest of the time in silence. It was like frozen for the rest of the day. And so I think some of what she's saying here is like, when you come across something like this and then you realize what it is, you don't know. You don't know what happens. It's very difficult. You don't know how you're going to respond. And I think that's what she's saying. She ran to her car and locked the door.
Well, no,
being so brave.
She just went to the car so that she didn't disturb any of the evidence. She actually sits in her car now for over an hour before the police show up.
Wow.
And rolling up your sleeves and doing the job that law enforcement should have done. I feel like from what you've told me, from the story that you told me, it sounds like they just threw up their hands and just said, forget it. Let's move on.
Yeah, I think they kind of probably had the same mentality that the rest of the town did, that these girls will be fine. They're adults and they're fine. No one, I just don't think people took Sean Paul serious.
Yeah.
That something was seriously wrong.
Have you talked to Sean Paul recently? Have you been
I talk to him pretty regular. I stop by the park, as often as I can when he's there just to give him a hug and say hello and see how he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty devastating to watch him because he's torn. You know, he wants to go home, but he also doesn't want to leave because will this just disappear like so many other things that happen here disappear?
Right. No, I totally understand that. How is he doing?
I don't know. I mean, he's being strong because he has kids at home still, you know, but I believe he's you can see in the pictures his heart is just shattered, and he's just looking for answers, and he deserves, you know, the whole family, both of them deserve answers.
Yeah.
All of us do. We need peace, and none of us have any peace right now.
Yeah, I agree. You know, my thoughts go out to his family for sure, to him and his family, of course. And like I said, this is a perfect example of sometimes you just got to take the law into your own hands and just put in the work, put in the sweat equity, because sometimes you found Kylan in the most simplest of ways, even though it took you 5 hours, of course, because you didn't know where she was. But at the same time, you went to the campsite and then you found her only a little ways away.
Right.
It's so strange to me that it was that close.
Right.
Yeah,
and there was a wedding at Whispering Oaks Friday and Saturday. They had over 100 guests there. The window actually overlooks the campsite. One of the windows. I'm like, how somebody saw something, they just don't know it. Like there had to at some point been a second vehicle around there somewhere. Someone had to have seen it. They just don't know it. They don't realize that they were a witness to a crime. And that's what we're hoping by continuing to talk to folks like you and others, is that we can get the word out there that, you know, this horrible crime took place sometime between Friday the 13th of August, and I found them Wednesday morning, but I believe that it happened probably Saturday morning after, you know, like at 1 to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, because the girls didn't leave Moab until 11 p.m. And it would have taken them an hour to get up there at that time of night, at least an hour. So you figured they walked into their camp area, you know, around midnight in that time range. So we just need people to, you know, if you take pictures, if you stood at that window at Whispering Oaks and was taking pictures of the landscape out that window, it's quite possible you might have a picture of that other vehicle.
That's a good point. That's
a
very, very good point.
I mean, I'm the crazy lady that takes 1,000 pictures of the same scenery every day, right? And, you know, somebody else could have done that too and not even realize they've got a picture of a vehicle that might help us nail this person.
Yeah. You got a point. We're seeing that with the Gabby Petito situation, the Brian situation with the van, and the van lifers driving through those areas of like Grand Teton and all that. So literally, some people just need to go through their phones real quick, and they might find something that could be extremely helpful, be integral to the solving this case right here. So real quick, I got to ask you, because obviously we're speaking of Gabby Petito and the Brian Laundrie situation. The last sighting that they had of Gabby was during that whole
when the police were called out.
I wouldn't say it's an altercation, but they when they met, they ran into the police. The Moab police. What are your thoughts on that? Because obviously people are kind of questioning a lot of things in regards to how the Moab police handled the situation. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they handled it right? Is this just kind of an example of the Moab police department? What are your thoughts?
Apparently it is an example of what goes on here. But I'm not real sure. I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to the videos and stuff. I think I watched it once, and it's kind of disturbing and sad to see how she's acting and responding, because I've been in that situation myself, so I kind of get it. But they should have enough evidence to either tie him into it or not. I don't know if they said it's not connected to give him a sense of security, because I know that they'll do that in cases. Yeah, I wish we knew. There's a lot of coincidences, like where they were going to camp. There's 2 spots that they had chosen, and both of them are within minutes of where the girls were camping.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of speculation going on about that whole thing, and yeah, when I first saw his picture and everything, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is the guy.
Oh, okay.
This is the guy. And then, he doesn't fit in with the creeper dude scenario, unfortunately, because they came after the girls had announced the creeper dudes, right? So, yeah, there's some holes. There's just some strangeness. I'd like to know, if he's not associated, how did they come up with that? Because we don't have any sense of safety here. They've told us we're safe. We don't feel safe. They've told us it's not connected. We don't 100% believe it's not connected. Many of us, let's put it that way. There's still some unanswered questions because they don't give you enough information when they make these one-line press releases.
Totally understandable. Yeah, right.
We've had.
I mean, to me, that says it all. So, am I hearing her correctly? She's saying the local people think that it's connected. She thinks, and the family thinks it's connected. Is that what she said?
I think that's what she said, but I don't think Sean Paul believes they're connected in any way, shape, or form.
I heard him say, like, yeah, we didn't do much research in it. They came out with a statement, and the evidence is pointing to they must have something, their evidence that makes them think that it's not connected because they made a statement or a sentence about that. But Cindy Sue was making it sound like that everybody in Moab was feeling like it was connected, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say.
Somebody tells us we have more holes than Swiss cheese.
Well, you're welcome to your opinion.
I think it's interesting that Cindy Sue, really the only one besides the Kylan's father, that has the level of eyewitness experience than people who are in law enforcement are not allowed to talk about it. So Cindy Sue, you're right. Like I was almost in tears watching her talk about it because you could feel like.
Yeah, no. When she went out there, she said she wasn't coming back with. She had enough gas in her car. She was either going to run out of gas or it was going to be too dark. She wasn't turned around. And if you map out all those places that she went, it's incredible how far she drove. I mean, think of it. She was out there for 5 hours searching for those girls. And she's not a search and rescue type person.
And she's the one who found them.
Yeah.
I didn't see a new piece of information that came out to me just in that little bit that we watched was I didn't realize that that Brian and Gabby had chosen a campsite that was a minute or 2 minutes from where Kylan and Krista were camping. I didn't realize that part of it because I did not know where Brian and Gabby were camping. I assumed it was somewhere in the area, and you'd think van lifers are going to choose a similar dispersed camping area or whatever, but I didn't know where they were actually camping in the area. So she said that Brian and Gabby had chosen a camp area 1 or 2 minutes away.
Well, this is where you have to hone in on exactly where they are, right? It's tough. So I think that Kylan talked to them when they were at the Moonflower Co-op on the 12th. That morning when Brian stated that he was there from 9 until 3. And then I had to go through pictures and look at shadows. And then I determined that Brian couldn't have been there at 9. It had to be 11. So, yeah. I've done some pretty deep diving into this stuff. So
People keep talking about Robert Lowry in the comments. It's like Robert Lowry, I think, was just I mean, I'm not going to say nothing, like there's absolutely no connection or whatever, because it is a strange coincidence, but I think Robert Lowry gotten by a bear. He escaped out of prison because he didn't want to be there and
I just think at this point, I looked into it for a little while, but I'm just not prepared to try to dig into that one. I think it's unsolvable almost. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'm happy with where everything is at right now.
If you guys want to hop on and ask a question, I put the link in. And I just want to shout out again, Gavis, I don't know if you were on here earlier, but YouTube allowed me to start having members on my page, which is a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I can't believe that I'm to the point of my channel where they're letting me have members join. And so we've had a few members join today, and I just want to give you guys a shout out. It means so much that you guys would support my channel. So thank you, Carol, who became a member. Thank you, Tammy, who became a producer. Thank you, Shelly, Joe, Corrine, Bryn, Neil, who all became members. William, who became a producer. Jessica, who became a member. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel by becoming a member. I mean, like, it's crazy for me to think that like I'm new to doing all this, and it's definitely has taken off. And so thank you guys for your support in that way. And I don't know, I'm up to 21,000 subscribers. Do you guys think I can get to 30,000 subscribers in a couple days? Wouldn't that be crazy if that happened? Thank you guys for supporting me. Many of you have liked the videos and subscribed. That definitely means a lot. Thank you for doing that. Gavis, they're wanting to know, did Dog's team respond to you at all?
I'm watching, Lisa. I'll check right now. They added $10,000 to the reward today.
Yeah, so they sent me. The Dogs team sent me an email this earlier today, like at noon or 11:58, and they said, "Hey, midday update from Dog." And then like the first bullet point was like, I forgot what the first bullet point was, but the second bullet point was the first bullet point was they added $10,000. The second bullet point was about an undercover agent joining Dog's team, and then the third bullet point was the thing about the sister.
Yeah.
Danielle says, please watch this video next. Kylan and Crystal interview with Dad Part 2. Kylan's dad just really puts everything into perspective and debunks Brian and all this. He really needs our help. And if you're talking about the interview with Ikid Mel today, I watched that interview with Ikid Mel, both of them, the Part 1 and the Part 2. And I can't help it. My heart breaks for Kylan's father so much. Like, there's just something about him. He went every single day for like 35 days to the park in their city and set up a clue booth to collect clues, and then he was turning them into the city. And it was literally just, for me, it was something that was really, really heart-wrenching to hear. Did they release the autopsy report yet? There's not been an autopsy report released on any of this quite yet. Terry says, I was going to ask you about that. It's a huge puzzle piece. I had speculation about the link and why Gabby was so stressed. Brian probably stole money and cards from the girls. Jules, thanks for joining. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm really good. Thank you, guys. I really appreciating your time.
Yeah, what do you have to say?
Okay, so I am so curious, and I keep trying to stay up on it, but when Gabby and Brian were pulled over by the police and they were separated, where did Gabby go?
She went into Daniel's back of his car.
She went in the back of whose car?
Daniel's.
Who's Daniel?
Daniel's the younger officer, 229.
No. I mean, okay, Brian went to the hotel and Gabby got the van. Yeah. So where did she sleep that night in the van?
Don't know.
See, my question is, so if the girls, the Moonflower, right? The Kaylin worked at the Moonflower, and you talked about this before, about they probably got talking. They're both van lifers. Kaylin worked at the Moonflower. They, both really cool girls, probably attracted themselves to each other. And then Gabby doesn't want to be alone. So she probably went back to the Moonflower and said, "Hey, can I camp with you girls tonight?" Because they're van lifers, right? They're living in their van. And then
She wouldn't have seen Kylan. Kylan wasn't working at that point. So she would have, I think Gabby would have just pulled into a parking lot or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just don't know where Gabby actually stayed the night they were separated.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's all that relevant.
Well, it is to me because I'm like, I just feel like they're connected somehow, and it just,
Where Gabby sleeps that night?
yes, because of the timeline.
Okay, so the timeline, let me help you with the timeline then. So this is the 12th.
Yeah.
On the 13th, Kylan and Crystal arrived back at the campsite where they were killed at 12 o'clock. Anything else? Yep.
Okay.
Anything else you need?
No, I guess that's it.
Jules, thanks for calling in. I understand your perspective. I'm curious about the two. Like, I want to know exactly for sure, where was Gabby at that night? There's so many things that
there's a million moving parts here, but where Gabby sleeps that night doesn't really matter.
Well, it does to me.
Well,
Because
to prove that the girls were killed on the morning of the 14th, Sue's identification of the rabbits being absolutely covered in poop and they having no water and no food in their cage, they were there for quite a while. They were discovered on the 18th. So the death must have occurred likely the morning of the 14th.
Yeah, she was saying between 11 or 1 and 1:30 a.m. wasn't her speculation, Cindy Sue's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jules, why is your heart connected to this story?
It's a funny thing. I'm a van lifer. I mean, not right now, but I have been, and I live in Florida. I mean, we're all human. And I don't know. And I also think that Gabby's spirit, some people manifest, she was like starting this, whole YouTube. Obviously, she was on social media. She wanted followers. She was focused. And she's getting it, but the body is no longer animated. But I also think this is bringing so much quality attention on what's really happening in the world, in our country, which is all these people missing and nobody doing anything about it. Look at everybody. Like, we are the difference. We're the ones. We don't need anybody to do it for us. We don't need the government and we don't need the FBI. I'm not saying that we don't not need them, but we can do this together. Look at all of us coming together. And we can do this, like this light. And I think that somehow she is like this spirit that is driving all to somehow be able to see that. So that's a very good question that you just asked. And the fact that I called in tonight is like crazy. I cannot believe I'm doing this.
Well, it means a lot that you would. It means a lot that you're watching the channel. And I'm like you, for some reason, like my heart's connected to this, as many other people's are. It's like, for some reason, everyone's just like, this story is gripping America, and also apparently with Gavis Canada. And we've had a couple callers from Australia today. Somebody's on here from Ireland. It's gripping the world, I guess.
It really is, and I that's why I got on here with you, Tyler. I just really wanted to try to straighten out all the different edges that people had, and this was just one of the most fascinating puzzles I've ever attempted. It's been really fun.
Jules, thank you for calling in.
Thank you guys so much, and everybody listening.
Yeah. Rob, what's up, man? Can you hear us? Are you there? Rob? I don't know what
Hey,
Rob.
how you doing, guys?
Good.
Can you hear me?
Can you keep it clean, but tell us what you think.
Have you ever thought that he might have went to Canada? Went to Canada? Because I can guarantee 1,000%. There's people at the western end of New York that'll take people across the border in boats, and realistically, police aren't allowed on native land without permission from the reservation chief. So he could be sitting in Canada right now on a reserve, just chilling out and living everyday life.
Well, I put a map up earlier today. You missed it, of everywhere that there's been supposed Brian spottings, and one of them was and everywhere in North America. There's been Brian spottings. One of them was in Canada. Is there one of those Woo Fing farms, Gavis, in Canada?
Probably.
So, I mean, it's a theory, Rob. We don't know where he's at.
But the only reason I don't think he went north is because it would have been just that little bit extra harder, actually. So.
Yeah, I see that. Thanks, Rob, for calling in. I think he walked away from his Wi-Fi or something and quit working because he got frozen.
He's going outside for a smoke.
Yeah, he was going outside. It's better than the other day. That guy who went in for the bathroom. I'm like, who calls onto his show and then's like, oh, hang on, I'm using the bathroom. I'm like, what the heck? That was so strange.
Guys, I see a lot of hate in the chat. I'm relieved. I'm finally relieved that I've sewn this thing all together. And I'm sorry if it comes across as arrogance. I'm not a streamer. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just happy that I've put this to bed.
I think, Gavis, some of it's there's some vagueness in what you're talking about, and I think it's because it's so in depth. It's like if you mention one thing, you got to mention 15 things. That's why I was asking if you could send it to me, because I want to see if there's ways I can look at it to try to simplify it in nature. I mean, it's what I do every day. That's my job. The Bible's pretty complex, and my job's to make it simple.
I'll fire it to you right now, Tyler.
Jen, thanks for calling in. What are you thinking?
Hey, I'm back. Sorry, just a quick clarification on Gavis, your timeline.
Sure.
So the 12th was when the police pulled them over.
Yeah.
And the 13th, the girls had gone to the bar.
Right.
But someone had reported talking to them on the 14th. So has the timelines changed, or have you found other information? What's going on there?
No, so they were at Woody's Tap House on the 13th. They were drinking from 6 to 9, and then they went to the Chevron, and then it took them an hour to get back out to their campsite. So they arrived at 12 o'clock at their campsite, which they were driving the silver Kia, not the van, and not the Harley.
You thinking
The Harley
they
and
talked
the
to
van were
somebody
parked
over
at
the phone?
McDonald's.
Yeah.
What was your question? Sorry.
So Jen, just so you know, Gavis, Jen is the one who put together
Sorry, just clarify.
Jen's the one who put together the timeline originally that we had up on the screen and was working with. And so she knows a lot, she's done a lot of research, and she's color coded, and she's went pretty in depth on the timeline thing. So that's why she's calling and asking the question.
Yeah, no, they didn't get back to their campsite.
I think the clarification for me, yeah, not the 13th, but the more, so on the 14th at some point they spoke to somebody again and said, hey, yeah, we're definitely moving because there's the creepy guy. So there was two conversations.
No.
Do you know, and that was over a phone, so they didn't see anybody in person according to the newspaper. So that's where I had gotten the source. But
No.
Are you hearing something different?
Yes, they reported the creepy guy when they were at Woody's Tavern, and that was between 6 and 9:30.
There's a second report for them. I'll try to find it, the source, but there's a second person that they spoke to on the 14th. A second conversation. So just, I don't know that it affects your timeline, but I question what time that they had passed away, maybe on the 14th.
I think they were killed between 9:15 and 11 on the 14th in the morning.
I know, Jen, on your timeline, you put Saturday on the 14th. They were saying there's been this creepy guy at our site. We're definitely moving campsite stay, and you put in purple. That's the last known communication. Do you have the source for that? And then we'll put it up or send it over.
Yeah,
Because
I'll look tomorrow. I'll find where I found that. Now there was not a time attached to that.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. Maybe the phone call happened, at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure, but I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll try to find the source where they at least earmark it for the 14th.
was it a phone call or was it a text?
It was a phone call. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting. It'd be interesting for us to solidify some of this and make sure we know, because if there's a source on all this time, because that's the thing we want, and people are saying oh, you guys are speculating. Jen, you weren't speculating on the timeline you came up with. You were using.
I wasn't. My only thought was that there was just nobody was really talking about this crossover. It's kind of mentioned, but nobody really dove into it. It was just kind of bothering me, and so that's why my timelines kind of overlap. But I did try to find sources, and Gavis, you've gone very deep, so I did not go that deep.
So the reason why the creepy guy on the 14th doesn't work is because we know for certain that they went to their campsite on the 13th at midnight.
I understand this was a phone call. It specifically said a phone call on the 14th. They hadn't seen them. The last known sighting was on the 13th.
I remember that. I remember reading that, what you're talking about, Jen.
Yeah.
I just don't I wish we had I wish I had the actual source too.
I'll give it to you. It was a newspaper, but I'll find out which article it was and send it over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gavis wrong.
No, I don't know that it's wrong. It still could fit, right? It just there was no time attached.
I'm pretty happy. I know it fits. So
yeah.
I'm literally relieved finally.
So Jen, I found the article that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it was their aunt, Bridget. Okay. So if we can reach out to the aunt, Bridget Calvert, an aunt of Kylan, spoke with the news on Friday and says the family's hoping whoever killed him is captured. She said there's been this creepy guy. So, but she doesn't say what day the conversation took place.
Yeah, it didn't, I'll find it and send it over. It specifically called out the 14th, did not have a time. And so again, I'm not sure that it matters in the big picture. Just, I was wondering, Gavis, if you had more details around that, but I'll send over the source. I'm going to let you guys go, but thanks for letting me join again.
Thank you for calling in, Jen. You're welcome to call in anytime. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye. I really appreciate Jen. Many of you guys don't know this. Jen sent us the original timeline, and it's sort of been a working document for me as new things have developed. And so our channel's not what it is without Jen. We got to have Jen on here. And so thank you so much, Jen, for calling in and supporting the channel that way. When you guys send in good stuff, I try to look at everything that's sent in, press@tylerfeller.com. Some of those days where we're having huge streams earlier this week, I was getting 100 emails every 30 minutes, and it was impossible for me to go through them. And so I was just scrolling through some of them and looking, and I probably 30, 40 people yesterday emailed me and asked me for the timeline, and it was while we were streaming. Well, by the time I get another 50 to 100 emails plus all the stuff I do on a daily basis, I don't have those emails to send you guys the timeline. If you're asking specifically for a timeline that I have, that Jen put together, and I put together a different timeline on top of her timeline, and I've added some things to her timeline. If you want specifically that, you can email my assistant, and she's probably not watching, so I don't know how to tell her this. Her name's Grace, but you can email her admin@tylerfeller.com and say, can you send me the timeline? Don't do it now. Wait until it's daylight tomorrow, and give me a chance to have a conversation with her and give her the timeline, and then she can send it to you if you guys want that. But I know a lot of people have been asking about it. So it's just a working document too. So, and it will help. You guys can go and look at it and say, where are these sources at for some of this stuff? And listen, I appreciate everyone's help, insight, Gavis, Jen, Tyler, etc. At the end of the day, and Gavis, you would agree with this, if things are right or wrong, heading in a direction is the right path. figuring things out is the right path.
Yeah, but you still have to be anchored to certain things, right? And this case has been cold for a long time. I mean, I started looking today into the Summer Wells case a little bit, so maybe I should look at a different case. Some people were, yeah. There's a lot of trolls on the internet.
Costa Rica, somebody's saying, has extradition with the USA.
Yeah, but that's his perfect utopian lifestyle. Like, I've delved into this kid's head, and they have organic farms where you could stay isolated on a farm and eat nothing but 100% organic. I think it's his utopian.
The just so people know, Gavis does have a Twitch stream where he goes on and goes in depth on some of this stuff and talks about it. And I don't know if you have Twitch. By the way, I have a Twitch that I started the other day, and this is streaming to Twitch. If you guys have a Twitch, you can follow it. I'm never even been on Twitch until 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and I just started streaming to it. But if you guys really like Gavis, you can go on there. If you really don't like Gavis, he's welcome on my channel whenever he wants to come on, and we'll talk through stuff. And we have a balanced approach on it, just so you guys know. Like, we're gonna have a balanced approach. His name on Twitch is Gavis Concon. Is that how you spell it?
Yeah, I had a issue with heartburn, and I was looking around for a gaming tag, and I saw a bottle of Gaviscon, and Gaviscon was taken, so I added another con on it.
Oh, well, I didn't ever know what Gaviscon was, but now everybody's calling. Yeah, his actual name is not Gavis, just so you guys know. I don't know if he wants people to know his actual name, but his actual name is not Gavis. I'm trying to look at. So go into the woofing thing, because this keeps popping up in the comments, like people saying like, well, there's no extradition.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I can. Well, it's on that sheet that I just sent you, but it's
the attachment that was on the email I got from you.
Mm-hmm. Was it?
It was the old one. It was an old attachment.
Really?
Like when I opened it.
So the WOOF is called World Opportunities on Organic Farms.
And they have farms around the world.
Yeah, it's crazy. There you go. That.
I'm going to try to put it up on the screen. So welcome to WWOOF USA, but it's actually a global thing, right?
It is, yeah.
How it works, the basics. Okay, let's see. And you're saying Brian was into this, like he was following it. This
is what they were planning to do on the end of their trip. After their trip was supposed to last 4 months. Unfortunately, it only lasted 2. But towards the end of their stuff in Oregon, they were going to go work on a farm and then potentially work their way down the coast on the west side.
So basically, you could go live off grid on these places. They're off grid places to live, and then you just live and work on the farm.
Yeah, you can pick a country and you can go. It's crazy.
Find a host. Let's see if we can find. Does it give us a map?
Yep. Oh, it does everything.
So
I don't think Barefoot Boy's going to want to come to Canada. Our winters here are pretty cold.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to want the cold winters either. So it looks like Puerto Rico has 17. I'm not seeing any in Costa Rica, but this is the USA site. So I guess I need to find the global WOOF site.
Yeah.
Okay, worldwide opportunities on organic farms. All right, destinations. This is more like it. I was on the USA version of the site, and it was only having USA places. So, oh, it's like everywhere in the whole world. Almost like, look how many nations this is. How many nations does this cover? 99 countries. It's like pick a country.
Yeah.
So Costa Rica is Belize, El Salvador. So you're why is your inclination Central America?
It's Costa Rica, and where I think he's going to go, he's going to pick one of those ones in Costa Rica. So there's the Rio Blanco. That was the first one I was looking at, but there's several in there, right? Like you were saying, it could be anywhere. So, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like there's 7 plus 4 is 11, 13, 14, maybe 14 in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
13 or 14 in Costa Rica.
Right,
And
but some of them cater to just organic, right? Some of them are somewhat. It's yeah.
we run an off-the-grid permaculture farm growing food forests, vegetable beds, ornamental plants, secondary and primary farms with few farm animals. Puerto Viejo.
But then there's other organic farms that are completely vegetable, no animals at all. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. It's just that's what I think is when he left on the 14th and Mummy bought him a phone, that's where he went. To something like that, somehow, some way. And I think he took his plane ticket to San Jose and then went to one of these farms out here in Costa Rica. And I could be completely wrong, but at least I've put the timeline together and I feel very good about it. So,
well, I mean, at this point, anything is helpful. And all these, like, what are people going to do in the chat when one day the timeline that you put together ends up being successful? They're going to be like, what? He was right. This guy's been living on a wolf farm.
Yeah.
And somebody's saying, like, pick your cult more than likely. I don't know. When I'm looking at that, it feels kind of cultish to me. That's the vibe I was getting off of that website.
Trish Blythe, I called the FBI tonight and I got a busy signal. Can you believe that? Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, all right, guys. Thanks for watching the stream tonight. And if you guys have any interesting things you want to send them to me. Thank you for those who joined and became a member of my channel. That means a lot. I can't believe it. And I just want to tell you this. If you're watching, this is important to me. To me, it's the most important thing. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, you can have a relationship with Jesus. This is easy as confessing with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believing that he rose again on the third day. Anybody who does that, the scripture teaches us, will be saved. I go in depth and tell a story called The Story of the Lost Son on my channel. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I can go into it deeper for you there and just if you watch that video. But thank you for watching. I believe in you. And yeah, proud of you guys. Gavis, thanks for hopping on today. It's like, not everybody was happy about it, but a lot of people were really, really happy with it. So there we go.
Yeah, that's good. I saw that nice comment, Trish. Thank you.
It was net.
That one nice comment that I saw.
People want to know what your background is. You're an engineer, and engineers are very detailed. So, all right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great evening.